We are here at another day of the UKEL. It is the second week. A lot happened in our first exciting week. Good teams won, bad teams won, bad teams tried to win, but unfortunately did not. Lots of craziness has happened, and we need to see how this next week will play out because there's still so much to play for in this season. To join me on today's adventure, I am joined by the lovely Rory B and good old Melee. How are you two doing today?
Grand, yeah. And do you want to just say out loud who you think the bad team that won was? Just for
We're gonna save
everyone.
that for a bit later. We gotta build up some suspense there. They're gonna be thinking, who are we talking about? Not sure yet. So, Mila, how are you doing as well?
I'm doing pretty well. I think I'm well rested after last week's bangers, and I'm hyped to be in a bit more of a viewer perspective today and not having to cast any of it. So I'm really happy. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's definitely nice when you and I had to cast the craziness of the bandits and in quick game. It's just nice we can kind of take back and chill a little bit. But with UKEL, you never know what kind of craziness you're going to be sprung upon. I don't know if we have the results from last week, if we're able to kind of pull that up, but I think we should at least discuss some of the stuff because obviously we have two teams that are undefeated. We have Venom Crest who are 2-0, and we've got InQuick are 2-0. It's pretty somewhat solid of what we thought that was going to maybe in quick not as much. We thought we were going to start 2-0, but the Bandits game I think proven that they certainly have a good amount of moxie in them. And then obviously we've got a lot of teams that are 1-1. I think things are going to play out relatively interestingly the next couple days.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is really when you start to see like the 3 zeros and the 0 3s appear, so the chart starts looking a lot more exciting. You really can get a better grasp of who's strong because, frankly, there's about four teams in the middle of the pack that I have no idea if they're very good or very bad this split. Because some teams are beating Elder Dragon teams and some teams are losing while they have souls. So it's a bit wild out there.
yeah, definitely. I can completely agree with that. I think the two teams that are suffering the most, at least after week one, should be Paragon and Bulldog Academy. But I think they still have a lot of chances and opportunities to come back stronger. So I'm very excited to see how that's going to go. And obviously, Crick and Venom Crest kind of want to solidify themselves a little bit at the top there.
Well, we obviously have our first matches coming up. We've got Bandits and Symbol. That's going to be the first of the day. Not sure if we've got them the rosters up yet though, but Symbol obviously is a newer team to UKEL. But first, of course, we're going to talk about our lovely friends, the Bandits. We've got Loopy, Lunkifer, JB. Oh, they're gone. Nope, they're here again. Lunkifer, JB, Alendal, and of course, I love him, my boy Kenny. Good old Kenny. So, Mila, you casted the first game of Bandits last week. Talk to me about how you're feeling about them.
Honestly, I was kind of surprised, I want to say. Like, not that I expected a bad game or something, but I was very surprised by the amount of, plays and craziness and back and forth that happened in that game. I think it was very hard fought. And you also mentioned that obviously, it wasn't necessarily something we expected to happen where they, yeah, were really, really strong in certain parts of the game. And then InQuick had really good reactions to that whole scenario. Like it was just craziness. And it's really hard for me to, judge from that game specifically how good of a team they are and how much potential they actually bring because it was insane. Like it was literally insane.
It was quite the game. Obviously, they had second place in the last split, so
Yeah.
we still feel like there's a good amount of potential for them. And they already played, maybe one of the better teams in Quick. We're kind of feeling out how they're going to be, but still a lot to play for the Bandits. But then on the other side, we've got Symbol. So on the Symbol side, we're going to have the players up on the screen in the second. We've got nobody. We don't know who
They're
they
not
are,
unlocked
but we
yet.
at
They're
least
not unlocked.
not unlocked yet. All unlocked characters. You're going to unlock them from playing enough Mario Kart races. So for the five, we've got Virtuoso, Slice, Wantage, Mirai, and Buzzy. Rory, kind of talk to me about them. Obviously, we got Buzzy, who is W's favorite. He's going to love us talking all about him. But do you feel the same way about Buzzy and the rest of the team that maybe W does?
Honestly, yeah, Buzzy was looking really strong. I was casting their game on Thursday, and my god, was that an interesting one to review because at the start of the game, Slice went kind of crazy. I love it when a player just drops like their standard jungle pathing to go just all in on aggression. He was able to pick up 3 kills really early on for his team. We don't talk about the build path. I think he was doing a bit of ultimate bravery with that one, but it's what Sinzao can build Infinity Edge. No, don't worry about that. What I'm worried about this team is even though they're individually so much stronger than a lot of players in this league, their team fighting seems really stagnated, where they're always missing someone at the back. I don't know if the bus just didn't reach that stop in time, but they're not communicating these fights early on enough. And then you see Buzzy getting like a 5-man magnet storm, and half the team's not even there. So it's great. It's a highlight clip if you clip it just before you die. But you've got to be thinking about the entire fight.
Certainly a lot to play with for both supports on these teams, because you've got Buzzy, who clearly was trying to do a lot for Symbol in the last game, trying to get these Magnet Storms in with Rel and see what he could do. Then on the other side, you've got Kenny, which we saw his Pike game, and his Pike game was, how do you call it? You call it unpredictable, to say the least. That's the way I'll be putting it about Kenny. I love my boy Kenny, but sometimes he can kind of pull the trigger down a little bit too early. But it can't help a team. We kind of got to see where things are going to go with them. I believe we'll have draft up in a couple minutes. Not too sure yet. I think I'll get the little person in my ear, whoever that be, saying about draft. So for a bit, before we get into draft, I'll kind of give each other's opinions on the other team. So Milay, talk to me a little bit about Symbol. Are you kind of seconding a lot of Rory's opinions, or are you going in a different direction?
I would agree that they do find very nice moments, but it's always kind of a decision making that leaves open certain questions where you find great engages, but then, as Rory already said, like some of the follow up is just not there, and it seems like sometimes they're just not quite on the same page. I do feel like they have a strong bot lane duo. I have been casting Mirai ever since Prime League Div 4, Div 3-ish something, and I know that he is a very skilled player, very talented, also wants to work very hard to improve. So I can definitely see them as a team having like this journey of improvement throughout the split. So I think actually bot lane, for me at least, might be the lane to watch here in some ways, just because I think both of the supports have a lot of impact on how the team fights play out, but also the AD carries, like who can put on those carry pants and who do they fit better, kind of.
So I think the bot lane is going to be one of the biggest ones to watch out for. We got my guy Elendil as well with Kenny on the side of Bandits. They're going to, try to beat the Buzzy's somewhat strong bot lane. It's going to be probably one of the tougher lanes to see. But then if we turn to the other side of the map, I'll bring you into this, Rory, because obviously
Sure.
On the side of Bandits, especially in the first game, Loopy was kind of the saving grace of that mess of Bandits. He was playing very well on that Urgot and doing very well against the top laner of in Quick, who I can't remember their name right off the top. But do you think that's going to be something that carries over into the next match? Are they going to want to put a lot more chips into the basket of Luffy to get them, or Loopy, not Luffy, not One Piece Luffy, Loopy, to get him into the game?
Well, Loopy is really good because he activates his team's win con most of the time and is just a really solid player. He goes for these slightly out-of-pocket picks like the Urgot and the Shen that you don't really see much in the top lane meta, and meaning other teams don't really want to sink bans into it because Loopy can always, I know he's not really in the meta anymore, can always bring out Cassante, and frankly, if it's Shen versus Cassante, I know which one can go crazier, and that's definitely a Cassante. Speaking of topside though, I want to go back. I was going through a few VODs and being like, what happens to the Bandits when Lunkifer's not ahead in the early game? I'm still looking because Lunkifer is generally always ahead in the early game. Apart from a few matches. Yeah, I know, but I couldn't get a full size.
No, hang on though. The thing that I just read though, because I'm always, looking at our production chats. Actually, Lankafor is not going to play today. We're getting the emergency sub in. We're getting Chrisley. And that obviously could change the whole dynamic because Lankafor definitely was one of the most important players in Bandits as well. When we first came into it last week, we were raving about these junglers. So if I check on Chrisley's like OPGG, I see a lot of Pantheon. I see Viego. I see some Jarvan and Skarner. I think this is going to be really interesting, actually, and what that does to the team and how they are, approaching the team fights.
So it is good we have that extra information of the jungler because I didn't know that until right now, and that'll help us as we go into draft. So as we can see, they already got the first pick Varus out there. Symbol also banning the Urgot and the Gwen away, so clearly they had their focus on getting Loopy out as much as possible. The Callista and the Ambessa coming on the side of Bandits. I don't know if that is not shown or they just decided that they didn't get a ban, or did they lose a ban?
No, they
Lots
lost
of
a
things.
ban.
They did lose
Emergency
a
sub,
ban.
they lost the ban.
Oh, of course, emergency sub. They lost the ban. Not sure what Lungafor is. Maybe he's stuck on the traffic or on just the normal German trains being a little bit later than you want. So we've got Varus to start. We've got Yon to start for Symbol right off the bat. How are you feeling right off the bat, Rory?
I mean, Varus is just like, yeah, it's more interesting if he's not even looked at for first pick. He's so easy to play right now. He enables a lot of comps with his safety. Yone Jinx, though, that is a bit more exciting right here. We got the flexibility of the Yone. Yes, like, Yone has been touched down a bit in terms of power scaling, especially around his E. But frankly, he still does the job. He has a great engage tool. He has a lot of damage in the late game. It's just getting there's a little harder. And as well with Jinx, getting to the late game is key. So Symbol really building around those key points of wanting to scale. JB, though, locking in that Akali that we saw last week. Well, hey, I mean, for better or for worse, his Akali is very aggressive and you love to see it.
I mean, you got to be playing Akali aggressive, especially to pick it still this early. Melee, we kind of see a lot of Yones, kind of moved around in both lanes. Usually you see something, a good amount of frontline picked with the Jinx. What else do you feel like Symbol needs to kind of complete this comp? Because obviously you got those 2 picks alone. You kind of know the direction they're going. They need a little bit more, don't they, though?
Yeah, I feel like they need some really good hard engage. I'm looking towards both jungle possibly and also support.
Oh.
Ooh, this is interesting. I do like that. If it goes, like, let's say it goes towards jungle, right? I think it's interesting to put that, into Naafiri because Naafiri should be a jungle pick for Chryslay here. Just because even though it got its hot fixes, it's still quite strong. I think it's very interesting to say, okay, we're going back to that more, let's say, AP-like junglers, which kind of, takes away from the front line that I wish Symbol would have at this point. I love to see, some hard engage. However, I feel like Mirai as a carry, he's very good on these hyper carry type, characters. He plays a very, very sick Zeri as well. That's just part of his comfort zone, I would say. So even if you end up not having the ideal setup for him, I think it's going to work out fine. And also, I really like this Yone pick if you consider that, you kind of want to dive into that backline here towards Bandits. You kind of want to find Elendil somewhere around there because he has the ability to stand back quite nicely if this Varus actually turns out to be for him, which I would expect at this point because Varus top is a ERL 1 type thing. If anything, let's not try that. Let's just not try that for now. I think that's fine by me. But overall, we see that there's a lot of bans towards the support positions, and this is the type of engage that I would look for, and I'm very happy with that Nautilus pick.
Yeah, we certainly love to see our Jinx in the UKEL. Varus top, I hope it doesn't become a normality, and I doubt today is going to be the starting. A lot of assassins on the side of Bandits. Obviously, you still got Naafiri, who, even with her nerfs, she's still, I think, a relatively strong champ in the game, enough to be picked pretty early on. And then this Akali is just going to be a lot of aggressiveness on the side. So I think the Leona probably is going to be complementing that a little bit more. What do you think that, they kind of need to round this off, Rory? Because Loopy is going to be kind of the final one to pick his champion, and certainly from banning them out, Symbol's going to be looking at what Loopy can do.
So it's really interesting. Bandits actually can go a lot of directions right now because they've got a lot of range on their side. They've got Naafiri, or they've got a Leona. So Slice is in actually a lot of danger, especially as well as Mirai. Like, peeling these champions off once they want to go in on you is going to be so incredibly difficult. So really, Loopy can go multiple ways here. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's just a Naafiri delivery system. She no longer gets a shield on her ult. Well, Shen's here to give it back to her. So, yeah, this is so hyper-aggressive coming out from Bandits. And Symbol, sure, the brand loves people playing into him, but the Yone doesn't really. Yone wants to play into the enemy, and the Jinx wants to create space, neither of which she currently can do. So it's going to be really interesting. A set answering. So you can immediately throw the Neferi or the Leona out of your backline. I think that's the logic here, is grab the dog by the neck and just ground slam it. But I don't love the matchup into Shen, especially because you just can never hit your Q, so that's an entire ability wasted. It's a pretty even lane state, but as we saw from Loopy, he loves going the Ignite currently on Shen. So he's definitely can solo kill a set in this matchup. So Virtuoso has to be pretty careful. Like, you can't underestimate Shen damage.
Certainly, I think Symbol's going to be wanted to play into. I mean, that's kind of what a Jinx and a brand is going to traditionally want, especially when you got stuff like an Akali and a Neferi that are wanting to dive into the back line. So you would kind of want the set to kind of, I think, throw people, like you said, out and kind of re-engage with the Nautilus from there. Is Symbol going to need to kind of play a little bit early on, or kind of with the Jinx melee, are they going to need to kind of halt back, especially with a brand as well, who maybe can't gank early as much as an early Neferi?
I mean, the good thing with the Jinx is you don't need to win everything early, because as soon as you hit a good team fight and find, let's say, 1 or 2 resets, you'll be able to clean up anyways. So I think that's the good news. I also feel like they have a lot of side lane pressure for the side of Symbol, which also plays into the more, laid back early game maybe, and then looking towards the mid to late game, how can we open up the map? So you do have Zed and Yone, which is like 2 champions who are notoriously known for just being everywhere and taking those side lanes all the way to the base of the enemies. I think looking at Loopy's pick here again, Shen might not be just as strong when it comes to side lane pressure, and they need probably JB to really answer that, whilst they would probably need Loopy to, be part of the team fights. And another thing for me always with Shen is you want to be able to ult towards bot lane to kind of find an overload situation over there. But that automatically means that you will kind of leave your lane alone, and that could give Virtuoso the, momentum to kind of push forward and find a snowball of his own. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what both junglers also want to decide to go for, because as you said, Brand for me, not the most gank heavy jungle pick. Nafiri on the other hand, she's a machine. Call the pack, and in we go. Like, ooh, it's going to be interesting.
But
we saw what that Neferi could do last week. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, I was going to say, I find this dynamic really interesting because Neferi loves to invade. That's really where she's currently in the meta. You're picking pushing lanes so you can get that Neferi in to the enemy jungle to try and find them out. Brand clears so fast. He got buffed on this patch to improve his clear speed, improve the damage tick of his passive on monsters. So, like, Chryslai might just walk in to, say, the enemy top side and nothing's there. And it's so much time wasted where you're just looking around being like, it should be here. Normally it's here into any other jungler. But yeah, Slice honestly could just find a massive momentum gain off of Chryslai trying to invade and being unsuccessful.
Brand certainly is an underrated clearing champion, especially when he was in the meta a lot last year. Brand now, obviously, like you said, with that buff, is probably going to be seeing a lot of the same. So, final thoughts. We need the final thoughts from both of you. I think this draft can go a lot of different ways. I'm really interested to see how it plays out, though. But starting with you, Milay, just seeing this draft, who do you think is going to take it?
Ooh, it's a roughie for me. I think, oh my god. I think if we make it to the mid to late game, I would actually give it to Symbol.
All right, we got one for Symbol. Rory, are you feeling the same or going into the Bandits?
I'm actually feeling Bandits. I'm actually,
okay.
I'm betraying myself. I'm actually going Bandits. I think with this comp, I think they have the edge.
Yeah, it's certainly going both ways. It's going to be also about how well each of these supports do. I think I'll be going for Bandits as well. I think my boy Kenny is going to redeem himself on the Leona. Unfortunately, that'll make our 2 casters a little bit sad because we have to throw over to our 2 American football players. That is W King and Black Boxer. Let us see them take it away.
And hello everybody, welcome to the cast tonight. I'm joined here by Black Boxer and we are ready for a very exciting game. A last minute substitute jungle coming in for the Bandits and Symbol coming off a big defeat last week. Boxer, how you feeling?
Oh, this is an exciting matchup right here. Like you said, both of these teams having a very interesting start to this split, and the Bandits with this substitute kind of throws everything up into the air, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, I don't exactly know what happened there, but this was very last minute. Like,
Yeah.
this was during the stream. We were just getting the information then. So clearly something's happened. So Bandits have for sure had a spanner thrown into their entire gear system. So we'll have to see how they can recover from it.
Yeah, and the thing is that your jungler was the big thing for the Bandits pretty much throughout the entirety of last split and kind of throughout the start of this split as well. So all of a sudden you've got this new jungler in. Obviously, we've never seen Chris before. We don't know how he's going to perform in this team. The other place that I would also be looking is towards the top side, Loopy. Loopy was a little bit of a weak link for them last split. In this split, had some really good performances for themselves and actually looks to be on a much better grind. Now has the Shen available. An interesting matchup versus the Set. Set, not something we've been seeing for a while. And Virtuoso, somebody who super backs themselves, thinks they're going to be in a good spot in this matchup, you'd have to imagine. So I think top lane could potentially be very explosive.
Top lane's gonna be huge this game. I completely agree. Because like also, as the game scales, Shen's the champion that's gonna just build a lot of health, and Set likes that because they can just backflip this Shen into the team if they want to, and just get a huge amounts of damage if this game goes through. So sure, like Shen is pretty like a lane bully in some melee matchups, especially with the ignite. But it could backfire into the Bandits depending on how Virtuoso plays this set. Virtuoso is known to be a very good top laner as well, and they know their matchup. So I don't think they just picked this set for fun. This guy clearly picked it for a reason and now needs to prove that, hey, I know what I like, I know what I want to play, and now they can get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And into this matchup here, if you can put Loopy on the back foot, we've seen what that can do to this top side of the map, can begin to break things down. I think that the analysts are right, though. This is a really split matchup, very interesting between them. I really can't get beyond the swap in the jungler and how last minute it is. So that is, again, a main thing that I'm going to be focusing on. But as they were saying, right, early game should be the Bandits' favored. If they can get late enough into the game, though, simple, they've got themselves a great scaling composition.
Yeah, for sure. And this is going to be an important game for either team right now because we're still pretty early in the split. This is going to end the third right here, the third game, right? Going. So, but you want that 2-1 opportunity, right? You want to have that just little bit of an extra win, especially both these teams are on the top upper like tier of the teams right now, in my opinion. So getting a win now is just absolutely huge and exactly what you want.
Yeah, it sat pretty high on your tier list, weren't they? These were teams you thought were going to be doing really well for themselves. I think the other thing that people watching at home really need to keep in mind, right, is that it may say Bandits 1-1, but the actual stat line for the Bandits is Audience 0-2. They have not played a normal game. They've all been crazy, and I do not expect that to change here.
Yeah, we'll get there in a moment. As we move into this game, we now get to watch the Bandits play against Symbol. Third game of the split for both these teams, and I am so ready to see how they come into this one because, well, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, no, they're not both coming off a loss. It's just Symbol who lost in their last game day. So for sure, both team heroes, they're going to do whatever they can to get the win. I won't get Buzzy's Rel. I was very hyped about that last week, but you know what? We'll have to see what this guy can bring on Nautilus.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that the Nautilus should be pretty hyped to watch. And in this lane matchup specifically, it's going to be very interesting to see what these bot laners decide to do. For the most part, I think it should just be a little bit of a farm fest down bot lane. Maybe if you want to get a little bit frisky, you can try between these supports, but I think it's going to be much more likely that we see these supports leave, go and roam around elsewhere, get themselves involved in other lanes, and potentially try to match up alongside their junglers in order to get these kills flowing.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have to see how these junglers path in particular, because when you have a jungle like this brand pick, it's maybe not the most proactive like other picks we've seen Slice play, like the Xin Zhao, right? This guy is going to want to be farming a bit more on this brand. As we see them, they're going to start in their blue buff, no shocker there, clearing up to the top side of the map. As we get an opposite clear for Chrisley here, which could lead to a potential split map situation, depending on how these laners set up these early pushes going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends to me if these junglers particularly want to get involved in ganking early on. As the desk was right to point out, you can get very aggressive on this Neferi, especially once you hit level 6. It's a great way to just start your ganks off constantly. At the same time, though, pre-level 6, I don't know how much you really want to be ganking, either as this Neferi or as this brand. The brand very much wants to just sit and farm yourself up to the later stages of the game. The kind of map states that we see at this level, though, usually don't allow you to just do that. You have to get involved, either at the Grubs or the Drakes. We do see teams just like to trade, not necessarily want to go for these full skirmishes early on. So we'll see if the junglers do want to get involved there. For right now, though, lane's pretty standard, but you can see already Virtuoso more than happy to be able to push this one through. The thing with the set into Shen matchup is that if you play this one out correctly as the set, you can beat the Shen into the ground. Yes, you have the ability to stop a couple of his auto attacks. It can be easy enough to negate just the extra Q damage that you get from the set, but even then, the extended long-form trades are just so very in the set's favor, especially because you can see it's going to be a Conqueror set, so he's going to be in a good spot there.
Yeah, definitely. And when, just how this set works, the lower health they get, they'll get more regen. They'll be happier in that situation as well. And I think what you're going to be very happier about is the Varus opted in for the barrier, Halo Blades. Looks like we won't get any kind of on-hit Varus shenanigans in this game. Hoping to go towards that lethality build because, we need to see that this game. This is a great kind of opportunity to get the poke out. Sure, you have these, tanky champions like the set, like the Nautilus, but the other ones that you can try and poke down before, if you can get some of these arrows onto the Jinx, onto the Yone, onto the Brand, and lower their health pools before any of these fights, it's going to come in absolutely clutch.
Very much so. I don't think that you need to be that main last killing blow damage as the Varus. You need to be poking people down low enough that your Neferi or your Akali can go flying in and pick up the kill, or the other way around. The Neferi Akali goes flying in, gets most of the damage down, and then you could just snipe that final kill away. Putting yourself in harm's way by going on hit as the Varus right here would be, I think, a very bad decision for Elendil. I think Elendil's more than good enough to recognize that and not particularly do it. Now, we do have a little bit until we're going to have our first set of grub spawning. Drake coming up in less than a minute's time. Bot lane they're all strapping quite heavily here. Oh, that's a mistake.
He is caught on the chompers, but they're getting a lot of damage back on the Buzz. He
He's
forced to
dead.
flash away, but the Ignite is ticking, meaning that first blood will go over to the Bandits, as Kenny does pick that one up, giving them on the scoreboard in a very, it looked a bit rough for the Bandits at first, but they managed to pull through.
The problem in this matchup, hang on, we'll see if Slice is able to do anything here. It's going to be pretty tricky.
Looking.
Yeah, no, he's just going to be wasting his time sniffing in this bottom side and revealing his position. The problem with this bot lane matchup, right, is for the supports, if you're the first person to go in, that's bad. And Buzzy, he initiated that fight, tried for the hook, tried to get himself involved, and there's just a little bit more CC that can come out of the damage. I was slightly worried, for the Leona's life. Once he stepped onto the traps, he was trying to space it out, stay, and then step back. Just about ticked himself onto the last couple of seconds of those chompers, but, was able to survive, so it's all good.
Yeah, and I mean, the first blood would have probably been nicer in Elendil's hands, but I'm sure they'll be happy to take that for the feats regardless. And it does give them a bit of advantage. I mean, it does look like Elendil was able to get a recall in there, so they have their items first. With that tier and longsword, we can almost guarantee this will be a poke Varus going in hard right there. And it's exactly what we want to see this game.
Yes.
Yeah, Mary's going to struggle as that goes through, as they don't even get a good reset right here. That is not a nice place to be in as Jinx.
No, you're now going to be so far behind the curve in terms of getting back towards this lane, and that completely opens up this first Drake right here to be picked up nice and easily. Chris Light, so far so good in this debut right here onto the Four Nations, and because you've managed to get this done so early on onto this Drake, there is a potential that you can pick this one up and immediately sprint your way up towards the top side, try to get involved for these grubs. You might lose one or two if Slice decides to go straight towards them, but you're not necessarily going to lose all three, and even then it doesn't even look like they're going to be going for that, so it is just going to be that one for nothing trade right here. Good job from the Bandits so far.
Yeah, and that's it was such an early start that the grubs just spawned about 10 seconds ago, so even if Slice was there, he wouldn't have even cleared one by now. We do see him now pathing towards this, and it does look like the Bandits won't even go for a contest, but just like you said, they could have easily also moved up here, and even if you just take one grub, right, because we saw Slice dropping a smite pretty early there, if you get one away from them, that denies any kind of stacking towards the objective feats right there as well, which is a great kind of opportunity to get him.
Exactly. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go and at least try to pick up one of these. It would have been a little bit rough, as much as they've got a lot of pressure right now in the bottom lane and in the mid lane. Top really isn't going that way. Virtuoso's got a ton of pressure right now onto Loopy. He's using this set to trying to just bully out this poor Jen. You can see it right here, yeah. Just constantly getting poked down. You really can't step up within range of that E. The second that you do, you're going to lose a good chunk of your health bar, and that's another reason, right, why the set's pretty good into the Shen matchup. You can face break him right out of his little Spirit's Refuge, and now what do you do as the Shen? You really don't deal enough damage really to be able to fight back. It's very much going to be on these later stages of the game where Loopy needs to get himself involved and trying to get good spots for ultis, and you also need to do that very far away from the set. If you're anywhere near him, he's just going to cancel that ult, and then you're in no man's land.
Yeah, and then you also have no way of escaping out of that too, so we'll have to see if Virtuoso can play that out as this game goes through. Also have to see how much loop you can use this Ignite, because, you know, you don't necessarily need the TP because you have your own ultimate to get around the map, but if you don't use the Ignite ever, then it's just an empty summoner on your hotbars.
Ooh, JB.
JB pulls the Shuriken, chasing 1TIJ under tower, but doesn't commit to more. But you know what? Could have been a bit scary if 1TIJ wanted to, I don't know, like flash under tower there, do something spicy.
Yeah, I was slightly worried that 1TIJ was, like you said, going to just flash backwards. You can even potentially flash back, ult forwards, get poor JB caught right under tower. Decides not to. It's all going to be fine at this point. Now we've got a minute and a half until the next Drake is going to be spawning. A little bit longer until the next set of grubs are going to be up. Those are going to be up at a roughly similar time, though, so it's going to be interesting to see what the decisions are going to be for these junglers, because as much as we were talking about, yeah, it's very much going to be a lot of farming from Slice and a lot of getting involved from Chryslite, we really haven't seen that yet. At the same time, though, the Neferi now has that level 6, so you are now going to be in that spot where you can begin to think about going in, using that Cooler pack, trying to get a couple of ganks off. I think if you do just sit back, kind of let this early game happen, not get too involved, that's really just handing over a victory to Slice, because he's getting all of this time to just sit and farm and not have to worry.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this is the power of the brand pick. If you're in a situation where you can just free farm and scale, the amount of damage this guy can bring out by a very easy combo, like, it's not hard to hit. You just have to hit one of your abilities and the rest will more or less follow from there. The AoE in these team fights has huge potential, and it's something that Bandits will definitely have to watch out for, as they can't exactly do anything too proactive to shut down the farming right now, so it's more important for them to try and get more ahead. While they still can, as 1TIJ is getting stunned up on the tower, but Buzzy is there to zone them away. And I like this little bit of pressure. It's nice to see, like, a little bit of attempts, but no full commits quite yet.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was hoping for from both of these supports. Get involved elsewhere. You don't really need to be babysitting your bot lanes right now. Solo kills shouldn't come through unless somebody completely mispositions. But we do see everybody heading back to base, buying their first couple of components. No full items going to be coming through yet, and nothing too interesting in terms of the build paths. Right now, a lot of pings happening towards the top side. Virtuoso has been pushed up a lot this game. Oh,
does have flash, but the taunt goes completely wide as Virtuoso is actually hitting this wave, maybe looking to fight something out here. If they stack the passive high enough, that'll be a lot of true damage as they flash chasing down Luffy, but it's just barely enough damage to get the kill as they turn the gank into a kill their side. 1v2 gets a kill, but does end up giving the kill over to Chryslite, as even JB was there as well, just to help out.
Takes 1v3 to finally pick up that kill. That's exactly what you want to be doing right there on the set. Yes, you die, it's not the end of the world, but look at what you get for that death. A 30 CS lead from just constantly being pushed up, making Loopy's life uncomfortable. You pick up that kill, Loopy doesn't get the kill back. That one goes over to Chryslite. Good for the overall state of the game, but bad for this lane matchup. Yeah, very happy with what Virtuoso was able to do in that one.
It's for sure, you can sometimes tell why these players go for these like last picks, and that right there, it showed confidence. He definitely could have run away. They had the tools to flash. There was no taunt. This guy could have just walked off, but he said, no, I'm going to take this fight, and gets the kill. Meanwhile, moving on, Chryslite has started up these grubs, so it looks like we are going to get a bit of a complete, you know, objective swap, grubs for dragons both ways. As Slice takes that opportunity to steal away some chickens to just slightly get the farm lead going for them in like all these lanes, but Gold State's still dead even, so we don't have a clear winner either way just yet.
And the grubs going 1 for 1, exactly what you want to have happen right here. You're also going to be quite happy with this one actually as the bandits, because the single Drake you get is Infernal, the single Drake your opponents get is the Cloud, not quite going to give you that same level of combat stats, not quite as impactful overall. These are small margins right now, and actually very interesting. You can see a couple little lane movements right here. Loopy now going to be sat in a little bit of a 2v1, not exactly what you want to be having happen. At the same time, JB versus Virtuoso right here, the Akali set matchup. I think this is a very interesting one. I wonder how long we'll actually get to see it for, and if anything interesting does actually come from it. But yeah, you have to be so careful right here as JB, because Virtuoso, right now, he's in a spot where you can try and just grab you and beat you to death.
Yep, and then as soon as you trade back, you just stack up that shield, and if they can land the true damage, I mean, even without the true damage, it still hits like a truck if it's fully stacked. And as Virtuoso just builds more health themselves, and just gains them through any other resource, like, it will only become stronger. And so we'll have to see how this pans out, as there's nearly over 40 CS gap towards that side, which does make you think why this gold lead isn't exactly scaling more. How much has that one kill or potential plates gone there, as we now get a little bit of a gold grab?
Yeah, huge gap in terms of the gold right here up in the top side. Mid pretty even, jungle pretty even, bot lane pretty even. It really just is this top side where there's a massive gap at the moment. It hasn't really resulted in an overall gold lead. Like I said, it's going to be pretty even between these two teams. We'll have to track who's going to be able to get themselves ahead. But to be honest, again, I think this is overall fine for the bandits, right? Wantage. Oh boy. Oh buddy.
Wantage
The
getting
CC.
stunned up for 3 years. Will not quite get taken down yet as they're able to flash over. Chrysalis says no and goes to the chase,
no.
but Slice is there, stunning them away, but a nice shield from the Shen will keep them alive, meaning that they don't actually lose anyone just yet. And with that, they're not even in a position to give up any towers. So a good pick and a nice commit there from Chrysalis. It's, you know what? For someone that's just come out as an emergency sub, they are looking pretty hot this game.
Absolutely, it's been a really nice start right there.
Oh, never mind!
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
On a ward? I don't see the ward that was spotted. Was that blind? I mean, I guess, right, you spot from the ward up just above. Not that one, the one in the upper bush. Yeah, where you're walking past and then into that bush. Yes, thank you, Zoe. There you go. And then you potentially know that he's walked into that bush to recall. But still, that's a crazy predict right there, Adam Marai.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to get themselves with a kill on the board. I mean, the feats of strength did go over in that sense. Feats of Warfare actually going over to the bandits there, as they did get the 3 kills first.
Yeah.
But that's a nice pick-up kill for Mirai. They'll be very happy to have a kill and a shutdown there too, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, the kill, the shutdown, and like we said, for Symbol, they just kind of want to get themselves into the late stages of this game where they can put themselves ahead and really try play through these potential level leads, item advantages, whatever they can amass later on. Right now, it's not too worrisome that things are going to be a little bit even a little bit ahead for them in terms of gold at the moment. It's very slight. This early game has been pretty back and forth at the moment. The thing is, though, we are hitting these 1 item spikes right now, and that's where this bandits composition is really going to come online. You've got that Storm Surge, you've got yourself that Eclipse. All of these first items are now unlocking these assassins here for the bandits to be looking really strong, like they're going to be in a great spot. They just have to use that, right? You can't now sit back, because if you do just sort of play through this mid-game that's coming up here, that's where Symbol begins to come online a little bit later on.
I'll be interested to see what Loopy decides to build here, because when you're playing like champions like the Shen, especially when you fall behind, you can opt into some like support tech items in there. Like, it's not out of the question to see a Shen build things like the Locket, like the Redemption even, you know, something that gives them health and boosts some healing. Looks like they are working towards the Dead Man. And yeah, very cheap items too, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that works, because, you know, they're not in a situation where they can build items now to beat Virtuoso. And if anything, they're going to have to soon send someone else to start defending versus him. Because look at this tower slowly getting taken down. It's not going to be alive for much longer.
The only reason this tower is currently alive is because Virtuoso hasn't decided to take it. That tower is 100% within one-shot range of him at the moment. Right now, though, he doesn't necessarily know where everybody else is. We know right now that all of the Bandits members are down towards this bottom side of the map. I think he's also enjoying watching the tower take a lot of the CS right now away from Loopy, extend this lead even further. Now this one is going to fall. First tower goes on over. Yeah, this is just a complete domination in this lane from the R5 pickup of Virtuoso.
And this is going to make this next objective very, very interesting, because whoever gets that will basically, if I'm not mistaken, win the whole feats of strength. And it looks like, I mean, Herald is on the map, but Dragon is also spawning pretty soon. So what are these teams going to prioritize? We do see Slice now on that top side of the map. They are pinging away the Herald. And with Virtuoso freshly taking down that tower, they are in a fantastic position to take away this objective right now. And doesn't even look like the Bandits can contest it.
No. There's nobody anywhere nearby. Virtuoso and Slice going to be more than enough to take down this Herald pretty dang efficiently as well. Like you said, that is going to be the pickup right here of those feats. Not a huge buff, you know, it helps overall. More importantly, I think right now is going to be this Herald and where it ends up going. If you can use it to crack open that mid lane, you've also had that top lane tier 1 taken down nice and early on in this game too. If you can crack both of those this early on into the game, that opens up this top side pit where the Atakan is spawning, where the Baron will be as well, massively for you, and makes it so much easier to try to play around those key objectives.
Yeah, and as we see Chrysalis taking the Dragon there, Slice is just happily helping themselves to Chrysalis' jungle on the top side.
JB.
JB was stepping a bit forward as Kenny's actually going in for the second engage, but can't get more. Slice could look for a stun here. Will actually force the flash from this Leona. meaning that no kills go over. You know what? This isn't like a Bandits Week 1 game. We're not getting some crazy kills. Maybe they've learned their lesson, as we only have 5 kills at 17 minutes, so
Yeah,
getting
I
a
wonder
bit
how
more
shouted
control
out they
there.
got by Harold. Like,
Completely
this
told
is
them
a
off.
complete turnaround. Yeah, this is a 100% turnaround. Although I still don't trust that this isn't going to be a game that ends crazy. We've very much seen these Bandits games go completely off the wall later on in the game. They're very good at throwing their leads during the mid to late game, and then just holding on long enough to be able to turn it around, potentially pick up the win, or then just throw it away completely and end up losing the game. They picked up the win in game 1, they lose it in game 2, you know, like, it was a little bit crazy overall for them to start.
Yep.
But this game, yeah, bit quieter.
Yeah, and also on the side of Symbol here, it does, you know what, I'm a lot happier with their items through and through. You know, no one's building anything completely out of whack there. We see Slice having the Rylai's now completed with that Leandries. I mean, this brand is very, very happy with what they have. And with this Herald being dropped mid-side, with the gold going over to Mirai and Buzzy, that's gold where you want it to go over. Like, Jinx is going to be this kind of secret scaling champion in this, right? They haven't seen too much out of that big rocket yet, but it's not looking good as Elendil is getting caught out. Wantage is on the chase, but will be snapped back soon. Slice flashes forward, ults the minion for it to bounce over to Elendil and manages to hit enough for the passive explosion to take them down.
That was sick brand tech right there, using the minion to your advantage at that point, and that was also the attempted stand united from Loopy. You managed to get all of the damage straight through it. That is the joys of the Leandries and the Rylai's already completed right here on this brand. This is the other thing that we were saying, right? Yes, it has so far been a pretty good look at a Crystal Eye on this Neferi, but it wasn't super proactive in the early game. It was much more about getting a couple reactive kills, 1 or 2 attempts at something proactive, but nothing too much. Whereas Slice, he didn't try, he didn't care. More than happy to be able to just sit and farm, got himself a huge gold lead in terms of just straight up through the CS. And you have those 2 items completed. Now you're a menace that you have to deal with. Bandits, we keep talking about how they need to play this game early. They really do. But at the same time, because they played the early game quite slowly, Simple, they're ahead of the curve in a couple of these key positions.
Yeah, they have even just a slight gold lead to them as well. So everything considering is towards Symbol right now. So we'll have to see how Bandits can try and keep up potentially that dragon stacking, right? They have one more, but oh my gosh, that's nearly 2,000 gold towards the side of Virtue. So if anything, it's maybe not the worst because again, this is a Shen, they're the champion that could fall behind. But it's still scary because this is Virtuoso on set, and they're going to be very happy as Slice doesn't quite go where they're looking for, but they will get the full stun lock. However, the Bandits don't realize that there's more of Symbol there. Will barely be able to take them down before getting killed themselves, and now the resets from Mariah. The excitement coming through will give themselves a kill as Buzzy goes for a last hook, but it doesn't connect.
Oh, not quite, but still another kill going over right here to Mariah. Exactly what you really don't want to have happen. These are these key members from Symbol keep getting themselves good gold. Yes, you get the little shutdown. Actually, you get a little bit more. JB gonna get taken out right there. Sorry, JB gonna pick up the kill there onto Wantage. Or as much as I'm happy with the way the Bandits have been playing parts of this, still they're down by 2,000 gold. There's 2 towers up for Symbol as well. They are most definitely in control of this game. And they've got the far easier to execute front-to-back team fighting composition. All you really need from this comp right now is Virtuoso and Buzzy to be in decent enough spots that when they step up, they can buy enough space for your Brand and your Jinx to be able to do their damage. And so far, so good on that front.
And it's also this Brand damage can easily bounce through this front line from the Bandits onto the carries, right? This Brand AoE is just such insane range. And looking at their items right now, like, this guy will hurt you. He's just clearing his jungle again. Nearly at 200 farm, getting, like, under about, what, 9 CS per minute, this guy. Like, they are on point. And now, once you start team fighting, once the Bandits start grouping up together, that's when I think Symbol will really start to shine. Because Jinx on 2 items right here, they've completed the Infinity Edge. If they work towards some kind of Runans or something as well to just match AoE on AoE, they could have some insane kind of potential team fighting going on.
Exactly, and because you've got this Jinx who's in a really good spot, it removes a lot of the pressure from Wantage to find that perfect engage where you're able to survive for longer. No, find that perfect engage, and if you die, so what? You just need to set up your Jinx and your brand to be able to carry these games out. This means that there's going to be a ton of pressure right here onto Chrisi and onto JB to be able to get these assassinations onto the key carries. We're going to potentially see a team fight right here around this 4th Drake.
Yes, JB will TP onto the Chompers from Jinx right there, having been set up. It does look like Virtuoso will be there first before the Solar Flare goes wide. Buzzy forced to flash out, but the chain from Varus will connect as they're trying to take down Buzzy first. He's dropping low, and there's the engage onto Mirai as JB takes down 2, and they're looking to clean up this fight, but you can't forget that there is still a Virtuoso with a Hull Breaker here. So if he's on his own, he is a scary tank to be messed with, as it looks like Symbol isn't out of this fight completely, as they're now chasing down Chrisley on the wrong side of the map. Will try to dash onto Wantage. Here comes Loopy with the ultimate, trying to keep them alive, but that won't be a big enough shield, as now Bandits and Symbol finish off this fight 3-3 apiece.
Yeah, really interesting fight right there, where yes, you managed to do your job 100% as Chrisi and JB. They're able to pick up the kills onto Mirai and Slice, but at the same time, in these long, extended team fights where you've got a ton of healing available for Wantage and Virtuoso's just doing his thing, yeah, picks up another tower right here. On the back end of this fight, yes, you get a good couple of kills, but Symbol, they're still going to be able to get themselves out on top of this one overall, and now we can do it all again. Nobody even got the Drake.
Yeah, for sure. And look at Set recalling down there. They just pick up 2 of those tunnelers, if I'm not mistaken, just getting more AD and more health, which is just the 2 stats that this Set champion just wants. Give me more. Has the TP available as well. Didn't even need to use it. And I love this Hull Breaker pickup because we're just shown so nicely there. They're too tanky to be killed first, so they're likely going to be left till last. And when they're last, they're just as strong. As Loopy is starting up this dragon. We'll have to see if they look for a fight.
Right now, Bandits, they do have the fast track into this one. Symbol, they are trying to push their way in.
Hook comes on to Loopy. Loopy dropping low as there's the burn passive from Slice coming in, but it won't quite be enough as they're shielding, but Wantage flashing forward takes the kill as that's the burn passive enough. Chrislight forced to jump out of the pit, can't even stick around to try and smite that away, as that is Symbol's dragon to secure, tying them both even on 2-2.
Yeah, 2 for 2 on the dragons, and Virtuoso, actually, he might get taken out here. Never mind, okay! Oh, he just needed 1 more auto, 2 more autos, maybe. You get the shutdown, I guess, onto Virtuoso. You pay for it with that mid lane tier 2. And Dobby, I worry a little bit. The Bandits, they've let this game get a little bit long in the tooth, and they aren't ahead enough to really be able to pull it back into their favor.
I think they need to find a solution for this set. Like, we see JB, they've gotten very fed on Sakali now, right? They've gotten 2 items, 10 stacks on that Dark Seal. In that team fight before last, we saw them absolutely blow up Mirai's Jinx, right?
Yep.
So there is potential. I definitely get what you're saying, but it comes down to how can JB play these fights? Can they take down the squishies? And then more importantly, afterwards, what are we going to do with this set?
Yeah, how are the health bars looking at the point at which the Jinx and the brand have died? Oh, Mirai!
You can't even speak because this guy just gets blown up. Bandits just get torn apart as they get caught out there. Mirai flashing forward saying, I'm going to take down that kill. And just like you said it, Baron on this map, you have a Jinx with 2.5 items, brand passive, and everything there. That's going to be a very dead worm.
Oh my, I need to pull the clip of that one. That was sick right there from Mirai. Just deciding to fully do it himself, not something you see often. Chrislight obviously is still up and available though, could potentially go for the steal.
Chuso's TPing in there. Buzzy will frontline there as a bit of a sacrifice as Lurpy is in the fight. They're looking to engage on a Mirai, but the Baron will be secured by Slice as the Bandits look for something, but it was the wrong time. And they do lose one. You just understanding JB in the pit does try to use the Zonyas and will run for their life, but they will get chased down and inevitably die. As not only Baron, but what else do we see right there? Atakan. No, they won't actually go for Atakan, but that will be a sacrifice made by the Bandits.
I think you don't go for Atacam right here for a very specific reason. Not just you're kind of low and maybe you want your reset to spend a lot of the gold that you have, but also it's another potential situation to pull the bandits into a team fight with.
True.
These team fights are going great for Symbol so far. They're not clean, you know, you're not getting clean aces every single time, but still they're managing to find themselves advantages across the map off the back of every single one of these because they've got these champions like the Set and like the Yone who can survive a while, get themselves into good spots later on. And this really is surprising, right? We came into this split looking at the Bandits, the only team to not have to change anything.
Yeah.
Runners up last split, a great team overall, and expected huge things from them. Yeah, they've got a sub in at the moment, but this has kind of been an overarching problem so far for the Bandits this split, where they just haven't been living up to those expectations.
I think so too, and it's just this game, it started off okay for them, but Symbol's just been working out a bit better overall. And I mean, just look at Mirai, like now they're 4-1, but I think they were just subtly playing so well at the start of the game as from just every situation, as they will now get the Arakan that gives them all a very nice revive. This is a great opportunity for them to, with this Baron, to just absolutely push down and collapse this base from the Bandits.
Yeah, they're going to be able to push this one on forward. Right now, JB has bought a little bit of space in the bottom lane, so they're only going to have 2 potential lanes to try push through. Right now, only in this top side, but can you even step up right here as the Bandits?
Elendil throws out the Chains of Corruption. Buzzy is getting stunned out, but that's still a tanky Nautilus. Death Charge forcing Elendil to get away, but Virtuoso goes in themselves, and that is a dead JB. Your Fed carry is dead. A huge haymaker from Virtuoso, getting another kill, as we can see Chrysalite desperately trying to engage, but won't be enough, as 5 members stand strong from Symbol. Finally one dropping, but they'll just get revived. Kenny, last member standing from the Bandits, will desperately do whatever they can to keep this game alive, but it won't be enough, as we see 2 cannon minions charging down this tower, and with that, Symbol will take the win.
Yeah, it's going to be Symbol moving right here to 2-1 in the 4 nation standings. 1-2 for the Bandits. Runners up last split, and now just not having a good time at the moment. Still, for Symbol, that was a real statement win for themselves. They were able to survive the early game, come out pretty much even as they needed to, and then just take over. Yes, there's a Jinx in the end of that game who looks like they did super well. They did. Don't take anything away from Rai. That flashing over the wall play was so sick. But Virtuoso was just beating Loopy to death in the top side, bought himself so much of a lead in the laning phase, and was able to translate it into these later game team fights in just such a gorgeous way. Genuinely such an impressive performance right there from the Symbol top laner.
Yeah, it was a good comeback from Thursday's game, right? Here, Thursday we saw them get a lead and just absolutely throw it. Here, they might have been slightly behind. They played cool, calm, and collected. They got the 3 Cs right there. And with that, they were able to just slowly scale through. And then in the end, was it a draft gap? Was it better League of Legends? I don't know. I'm sure we'll hear from Harold Ham at another point, as they'll give us their comments on this draft. But we'll have to wait for that, as we'll throw it into a short break before we come back with our second game of the night. Good Chi versus Paragon, and we'll see you guys on the desk very soon.
てもデイドリーミング Yeah 君のことば繰り返し寝ても覚めてもやまないそっけない君の笑顔が恋しくて星に願うのまた会えるよね
Well, we're starting the week off with one win for Melee for getting that prediction right, where me and Rory are a little bit in the dust from that. It was quite the game. Certainly the first 15 minutes pretty slow, and then it just seemed like, unfortunately, a slow bleed from Bandits, and then just Symbol were able to take the win. Rory, I'll start with you, because obviously you and I were hyping up Loopy a great deal. You were talking about his Shen. You were like, I'm not sure if this set pick is really going to work out. It seems like everything we said about him, unfortunately, did not happen in this game.
Well, I mean, the main issue is I'm a bad analyst, I think.
That doesn't help.
Well, Virtuoso is just a really, really good laner, and I think I just underestimated his performance, really. I knew he would probably get a CS lead, but I didn't think the set would be able to do more than the Shen. But at the end of the day, he was actually joining teamfights on time in this match, and that was a really big deciding factor in a lot of fights.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like he finally was able to get it done. Yeah, Melee, please continue the analysis with that.
No, I mean, honestly, I completely agree. I feel like, number one, top lane was doing a lot more work than we maybe expected in the first place. Also, we had one scenario where, he was close to taking a second turret if Shen's ultimate would have gone through, which exactly highlights the point that I made in draft, where it's like, of course you can use Shen ult to join teamfights, which is great, but you always automatically abandon your lane, and if you're already bad at matching the split push of your enemies, that's maybe a bad idea, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, certainly going to be hard to match a split push with a Yone, but the game, like we said, started off pretty slow, but we got into a fight. Dragon fight here, which, safe to say, it was relatively chaotic. Rory, kind of talk me through what was kind of the idea of what Bandits tried to do in this fight.
So Bandits tried to just one-tap Buzzy, but he lives for just too long, and Virtuoso just dives straight onto a Lendl in the backline while that big Fate Sealed comes out, and then we see a bit of a comedy chase right here. Chrisley goes on a run. We know Chrisley's dying here, but Loopy for some reason also follows, but then ults, which negates following in the first place, so now out of position completely. Ends up not meaning anything, but I was thinking there was going to be a chase down on that Shen. Overall, it was even. Neither team got the dragon, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure JB could have just stayed top lane during that entire thing and gone a tier 2 top, which overall would have been gold positive for the team.
I think that Bandits certainly needed to come out of there with like a bigger win, or at least some kind of dragon, because they're already losing a lot of turrets on the map, get a big team fight victory with still a lot of people alive to take more control of the map, or at least get some kind of objective. Obviously, we had then the dragon fight that happened a couple minutes later where Symbol would end up getting the dragon. We obviously had that crazy play where JB was trying to do his best, where he was able to kill the sets. But then even though it seemed like maybe that we could get a little bit of turn for the bandits, we then go into this Baron play, which just completely let all of the air out of the balloon for the bandits. And Symbol were able to take the game from here. So talk me through the beginning of this one, Milay.
Look at Mirai. Just look at this and enjoy it. He pulls out the Super Mega Death Rocket, flashes over the wall to then get the kill on Elendil, which means one of the main damage dealers for the enemy side is already gone. They pick up another second kill very fast. So Kenny's down as well. You were very sad about it. I can still hear it in my ears. You were very
They
upset
killed
about the fact
Kenny!
that Kenny always dies, but he locked support. And then they can easily turn towards this Baron here. And what we also see from this is Mirai at this point, I think, had 2.5, 3 items done, already got like 3 to 4 kills, and he's just getting excited very fast. He has all that speed. Yes, they find the kill onto Buzzy, but at what cost? He completely commits onto Mirai here, who can kite it very well, picks up 2 more kills almost. Loopy actually manages to make it out alive here. But, going golden here, JB actually kind of dodges the ultimate, but at the end of the day, he's going to be picked up here as well. And then, it's kind of just the fate sealed at this point for the side of bandits. And I think, all credit towards the top lane and the plays that Virtuoso did. But Mirai getting excited changed the entire pace of the game for me, because he was literally unstoppable and unkillable. And out of this Nash, they went into Atakan, they got the revive buff, and they ended the game. And that's it. That's the end of the story. And I feel like that snowball became really big, really fast, and bandits just had zero answers as to what to do.
I appreciate you keeping some of my spirit alive by giving the pun, because it does seem like the Bandits' fate is somewhat sealed at this point, because we had high hopes for them, but they've been nothing but struggling this entire time. We're going to really need to see how they're going to go, but Symbol at least looking really strong in this, and maybe they can be a bit of a contender as the series goes on. But now we got to flip ourselves to the next match. We have got ourselves Good Chi versus Paragon Gaming. A fight of a bit of the lower teams, two teams that definitely have not started off the best and struggled with struggled in the spring split as well, or excuse me, the winter split. We're in the spring split right now, but certainly still both chances for the teams to redeem themselves. And who doesn't love a good old fight to stay out of relegation? So starting off with Good Chi, we have got the 5 beautiful players on this side. Hopefully we'll be able to see them instead of the unlocked characters of the Symbol team. We've got Foreshore, Tweak, G2 Chover, got to make sure the G2 part's in there, Morrow, and Stargazing with 2 A's. And this picture is a little bit less cropped out. I guess they didn't want to. He wanted to make sure his beautiful seat was in there, like the rest of them. But Milay, Good Chi obviously starting 1-1. What are you kind of liking about this team?
I feel like they have had solid performances. I feel they are still a little bit on the lookout as to where they want to go from here. I think they fit in very well in that category of they are in the current midfield, but we're not entirely sure yet, right? Because they're in that midfield with other teams like Belfast Storm, Broad and Friends, Rise, even Bandits up until now. So they are a bit of a question mark for me. However, I feel like they definitely have a lot of potential on their side, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing their development and how, throughout the split, they are actually going to, rise up with the challenges being thrown in their way. And I'm actually really excited to see them perform today, because realistically they should have a bit of an easier matchup here with Paragon being on the other side.
Couple of them staying over from the team before in the winter split. So we see how they go against Paragon. Obviously, we're going to see the Paragon players. We kind of expected, I feel like, a little bit more from them. The fact that they were 5-4 in the last split, but an 0-2 start, not exactly what we want. But we've got Kenji, Fruity Carrots, Ketsuo, Dark Shadow, and just Lulu, I guess. Just the champion Lulu will be playing in for Nyoitek, whose name I can barely even see. So Paragon, kind of a rough start in the beginning. Rory, what do they kind of need to do to redeem themselves to get back in playoff contention?
So, Paragon, bit weird, to be honest, their match into Bandits, right? I think the only way we can describe that match is just strange or weird. They had so many instances where they could have closed the game out and they just didn't seem to know how to, or they drafted a composition where they just weren't able to. I think it's a bit of column A, bit of column B, but they actually play really well. Like, they collapse on chokes really well. They can team fight super powerfully, and if Neotech's allowed to get Lulu, then their spot lane is an absolute menace to behold. But something isn't really clicking with them, and the main point of League of Legends is winning the game, so if you can't win the game, then there's no point. It doesn't matter how well you play, does it?
You're only good as your ability to close, as I'll keep saying. You can do as well as you want in the early game, but if you're not closing the game, if you're not getting those wins, then what's the point of anything you do in the beginning? All at the end of the day, people are going to see what those results are. So again, I think we're going to have a draft in a couple of minutes. But both teams, I feel like, there's a lot we expect from them. Maybe they haven't seen a ton right off the bat. I think even Good Chi, who maybe has players that we don't know as well, or just kind of ones that kind of shifted over from other teams. I feel like there's still a lot we can see from them. I feel like this, if anything, could still be the battle of the mid laners. I still like Chover relatively well on the side of Good Chi. Rory, kind of take it away again. Where do you kind of feel like the lanes are going to be the main focuses of? What do you think we should be watching out for?
So lanes, I feel like Paragon are going to be slightly winning out in lanes overall. It's really where team fighting is a lot more exciting, because that's really when you get the Forsure impact. Forsure, we've seen him in lane, not the greatest. Kind of got put in the dirt last time they played versus Symbol, but the team fight presence was awesome. Marrow, look, I've said my piece with the Vayne on a previous cast, so I'm not going to repeat the tragedy, but I didn't like the Vayne pick as a whole, but I think he's an incredibly good player, so he made it work in the end. So it's very stylish how good she play, as in they go for a lot of pizzazz, and that's how they win through flashy team fights. But as far as lanes are concerned, I think Paragon have pretty much Paragon have this in the bag if Fruity Carrots is able to have any impact.
Well, I think Good Chi is going to give us a good match for sure, no matter what we see. I can't even get that one out without laughing. It's such a terrible pun. But we'll for sure see something good, I think, out of Good Chi. Melee, if Paragon, we've seen them with the potential. I mean, after this loss, or sorry, maybe not loss, but if it is a loss, is it going to be kind of tough for them to build any momentum going back? Because once you're 0-3, just, that can kind of get in your head, or just the fact that you've lost to maybe some lower teams. Is it going to be really hard for them to kind of climb back up in the match? How important is it to get this win today?
I mean, obviously every win is important, right? So I think if you are in a competitive setting, you're playing to win. If you don't want to win, why are you here, right? So I think let's put that out there first. I think the 0-3 or 3-0 situation is very interesting for the standings, and I think for them to pick up a win here would definitely give them some momentum, because if I'm not wrong, their next opponent should be Broad and Friends, which is not necessarily getting easier then. It's not like they will have a great time against Broad and Friends. We know them. We know what they're capable of, and they're definitely an enemy you need to respect as well. So I think going forward, you will have some easier matchups too, like playing against Bulldog Academy. You hopefully should be able to pick up a win there, but same thing counts for Bulldog as well, right? Like for them, it's also important to pick up these wins somewhere along the way. But overall, we're still so early in the split that I feel like if you are mentally done after 3 games, that's really not a great sign for the mental health of a team and a team atmosphere. I think ideally you should be able to recover from that, even if it would definitely put them under even more pressure, because there's only so many games you will be able to play throughout the regular season before you have to find a way to lock playoffs and actually try to not go to a point where you have to fear of demoting into a lower division. So, I think kind of, in my opinion, they kind of need to win today in order to have some peace of mind playing against Broad. But at the same time, you should definitely take every match day as a new day and just try to get everything out of it, whatever that means, how much ever is possible, I guess.
You want to get everything as you can with these games, and you certainly want to try to build these wins still early on to help your momentum into playoffs. Obviously, we're still waiting for the draft right now. It's taking a minute. I guess everyone's kind of finishing their kind of afternoon or evening kebabs. I do want to say, though, just a quick thing I read in the chat, which is Loopy did make the admission, I should not have blinded Shen. So he at least admits his faults there, and so saw that maybe that didn't help him the most problems. But at the same time, we do have another match going on right now. We've got Venom Crust and InQuick going on, technically off stream for us, but if you do want to check that out, one of the players or a couple of the players, especially on InQuick, as we know they are all pretty big streamers, they're streaming the games there. I'm sure that's going to be an exciting one. So hopefully you can at least watch that a little bit while we kind of wait for draft at the same time. I mean, where is even draft going to go at this point? We're probably still going to see some Neferi. I mean, obviously you talk about how important these kind of team fights are. They're probably going to draft for that. We're definitely seeing a lot of Yon so far in UKEL, or in Four Nations at least. I think that's still probably going to be a pretty high priority champ. Everybody likes the kind of either split pushing with that or with the team fight potential with that. Is there anything you really want to see out of either team from the draft, Rory? Is there any like high priority picks that you'd love to be picked?
I mean, as much as I want to see another R5 Yorick, just to have a bit of fun with it. Well, Rise Gaming didn't really make it that fun to watch, but I want to see it work, right? I want to see it work. This champion is kind of taking over, so I want to see a team successfully win with it, because almost every pro match I see where Yorick's picked, it gets plastered, and I've been told a lot of teams don't know how to play it. Which means the people in the know aren't willing to part with some hidden knowledge that I'm not aware of. I'm pretty sure it's just full lethality, but you know, that's that's maybe something for the One Tricks to tell me. Apart from Yorick, I don't know. I love seeing Ivan. I think he introduces a much more interesting way of jungling. I know a lot of players hate to see an Ivan, so it's a back and forth, really.
I think I just saw something interesting because I keep going through OPGGs. That's kind of my thing. I love looking at them and seeing what's everyone practicing and doing. Dark Shadow has played a shit ton of Twitch games. So I mean, personally, I hate Twitch. It's my
I love Twitch.
perma-ban. Like, I always ban that champion because why are you invisible? It's so not necessary.
He's just a goofy boy. What's wrong with him?
She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to buy pink wards. That's just, you know. Some people just don't.
Okay, for the record, I always buy pink wards. Okay, just putting it out there. No, but actually, like, that's something I just noticed where I'm like, okay, there's a lot of Twitch games here in the past week, I guess I would suppose. But also in chat, we had Nyontech saying that he is playing Yumi. However, we were actually
well, he's back on Lulu.
He got his Lulu. Obviously, we got the draft a little bit late, but we got a lot going on already. If a few bands on each side, not seeing Neferi, a good amount of jungle bands from Paragon, Goodshi, and kind of a mix of bands. Obviously, didn't want to give that jinx away. Zyra, an immediate pick for B1. I find this very interesting. It does let Paragon get their Lulu as well, and then counter with the Lilia. So, how are you feeling about this one so far, Mila? There's a lot of variation going on.
I think it's interesting because we do have some very, very meta draft going on the blue side, which is actually Paragon. I just saw in chat that, sides are mixed. But
we mixed it up. Okay, there we go.
This is right. Okay, this is how it's right. So we have like a very meta type pick situation. And then on the other side, I wouldn't say it's off meta. We do have Tristana, which is like very strong. Still a flex pick, could go towards Chova or Maro here. It doesn't really matter. Definitely a late game insurance type of pick that will have a lot of burst when it comes to turrets and objectives. We do have Lilia, which is one of the most picked junglers that I've seen, at least lately. And now we're getting Sivir, which automatically means that this Tristana should be going towards Chover. And Sivir, for me, is still a bit of a question mark. I know she's been rising up in Prior a lot. She is decent when it comes to late game insurance. I always feel like she takes so long to be, very valuable for her team. And that's where I kind of put the question mark. So for me, that's very late game focused, and also Lilia is a very hard champion to play. So Tweak definitely has to, challenge Fruity Carrots here in this case.
Certainly got a lot of speed on the side of Good Chi. I mean, Sivir's going to help with that, and then Lilia and Lulu as well. People will be running all over, and if this Lilia gets strong, her just literally circling around you could be difficult to deal with. But a little bit more poke, a little bit more range now coming out from Paragon as they pick the Jace to be paired with the Varus, so that everyone just has a little bit more. And the Jace is even going to go mid to try to counter the Tristana here. How are you feeling about that, Rory?
It's not a matchup you see that often this year, at least. I know in the past 2 years, in Korea, you've seen the matchup pop up a few times. Good Cheer, they've had an interesting draft because they kind of threw away their flex potential with that R4 pick of the Sivir, which means they're really prioritizing the top lane here just to be an Ornn. Seems a bit funky. I feel like you could have done a bit more cheeky stuff in draft if you just R4 that Ornn. But it's Paragon's comp is really interesting, right? Because they can buy so much space with this poke zoning potential, and Good Chi that only engages for sure, right? Unless Tweak is willing to flash in and sleep, but are you really flashing into a Zyra Renekton? I don't see a world where you live that before you get Zhonya's, and then the moment you come out of Golden, you just get popped anyway. It's gonna be really hard for Gucci to do anything, and I think this Jace pick into the mid lane just nullifies a lot of what Tristana wants to do, and therefore nullifies a lot of what Gucci want to do.
The problem is I think that Paragon have a ton of really good re-engage. I mean, obviously you've got Rel who can do that. Jace can, poke a ton on the disengage, and then Chain of Corruption and Stranglethorns are excellent at re-engaging a fight. For sure, really needs to be like the main guy in here. They really got to, I think, play front to back to try to get as many picks as possible. But I think it's going to be kind of an uphill battle for them. I mean, maybe Gucci can really start to get something going early on. That's maybe they have a little bit of window to do that, but I don't know. It's going to be kind of a tough draft on both sides. At the same time, we said the same thing for Bandits for last game and for Symbol, and it kind of went in a different direction. Melee, how are you kind of feeling? Do you think that Paragon's kind of heavier range and kind of better kind of solidity around their team fighting is going to help them prevail?
I mean, I feel like individually, Paragon's picks look better to me, but that's like individually speaking, right? Now if I look to the side of Gochi, and especially after you mentioned classic front to back, that has been working out for a lot of teams insanely well. We always get these spicy drafts where people try out certain things and then they're just being beaten by the classic easy front to back because it just works. That's why everyone does it. And the only, let's say, issue I have is that the hard engage has to be the Call of the Forge God, because Lulu cannot really engage a lot, and even though I can expect Tweak to definitely be out there and trying to make things work, I'm definitely looking towards Foreshore there as well. I do, however, feel like, again, they have some very good scaling potential on side of Gochi here. You need to answer both Foreshore and Chover in side lanes. I think Tristana in a side lane, let's say they even pick up 6 Void Grubs. Horror, like literal horror story for Paragon, because who's going to match that? Just with like attack speed and stuff as well. You have Maro, who can, with his ultimate, also like enable team fights very well. So for me, it's kind of the same story as last game. If we look towards scaling, I'll give it to Gochi. But if Paragon end up having a strong early game and actually move from that, then it's going to be Paragon.
All right. I think we've got kind of both sides covered pretty well. I think we all feel that Paragon probably have the little bit of edge. Even the Good Chi chat said, in the chat, they said to you, Rory, that, oh, you do hate us. So we'll see if that sticks true. It seems like most of us are going to Paragon. But we've got ourselves to see what the casters think. The football players are back. Dubby and Bloxer will take it away.
Yes, the football players are back. I mean, it's a connection that I like that Frisky's made between us, Bloxer. As we're now here for this game with a very different draft from last game. So what are your thoughts on that right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, very different in a lot of ways right here. Poke all the way through from Paragon. And the fact that they've heavily put themselves into this more poke kind of composition is a little bit risky. Like they were saying, like Mile was specifically calling out, right? Front to back is so easy to play, and these players are very good, these teams overall are very good, but there is a reason that front to back works, because it is easy, and Paragon specifically, they've been a team that's been struggling a little bit in their late game decision making. The late game decision making, late game macro, has been the reason that Paragon have lost their last 2 games. They don't know how to play normal games either, they don't know how to play normal games, just like the Bandits don't. But unfortunately for them, right in the late games, there's been a couple different times where things are going well, and then they push really far up mid for no reason, or they just allow the other team to pick up an Elder for no reason, and it just allows teams to get back into this one. With this kind of poke-heavy composition, if you're making mistakes, you don't have the sort of composition that can bail you back out from it. You kind of need to be in a good spot from the very beginning, because if your poke doesn't deal enough damage because you've fallen behind early on, well then this composition has very little else to really try to offer.
Yeah, Gucci, maybe they might not have any kind of instant pop CC to catch out Paragon right here. You have these great ultimates coming from the Ornn, from the Lilia and stuff too, but like they aren't like those kind of like point and click instant engages, so maybe that can be the saving grace for Paragon if they are in these situations where they overstep. The poke will be huge and they're not at huge risk, whereas Paragon, they have things like the Renekton that can just auto attack stun you. You have the Rel, you have the Zyra, so they have that kind of poke but also this pick potential, and they might just need that because you have 2 very good looking AD carry champions on the side of Good Chi and a Lulu to buff them up.
Exactly. I mean, the composition, if it gets rolling right here at a Good Chi, oh boy, is it going to be doing a lot of damage. Maru has been a pretty good player for a couple of splits now, and I actually really like Chova on these more aggressive AD-focused mid laners. I think he looks really good on them, and like you said, there's plenty to try to back it up. It is going to be the lack of hard engage that's going to be a little bit of a problem. You're very much reliant on Forsure to be able to start that one off with the Call of the Forge God, or maybe Tweak lands the sort of miracle bowling ball that can get things going. It is tricky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can get those little bits of engage, there's definitely follow-up there, right? You got like the Tristana rocket jump. You've got Sivir who can just, press the ghost, press the R button, and just run at you. You got Lulu on this comp as well. Like, there is a lot of chase potential from this Good Chi roster, and that might just mean that Paragon could struggle to run away from it. But you know what? You've got champions like the Jace, right? They could open up that little Hextech gate and just kind of help you run away. So it's a back and forth game, and it's going to be interesting to see which one it kind of leads towards.
Yeah, and we've got a very interesting split between these junglers, again, kind of like we did in the last game, where the Lilia very much going to be focused on sitting around in the jungle, getting yourself as much farm as possible. You can try to gank pre-level 6, you can try again to gank post-level 6, but I gotta be honest, it's really about these skirmishes and about getting a couple of items before this Lily is really gonna want to be involved. At that point, then you're gonna be in a really good spot, but that's about 20-25 minutes into the game. Very different right here for Free to Carrots on the Zyra. Yes, in the later game teamfights you can deal a lot of damage, you can actually massively change teamfights through that ulti, but I actually think a lot of the power, a lot of the best things about the Zyra is the early game. How much damage you can do through just the base damages, the plants alone, and you've got decent gank setup as well throughout these lanes that you can maybe try to exploit that when Tweak isn't expected to be doing things on the rest of the map.
Yeah, these junglers can really just opt in for different play styles. I mean, last game it was very obvious what each one would do, but here I could still also see like both just opting into power farm. So we'll have to see how they kind of match it up. Top side, however, this Ornn into Renekton, it seems like a classic matchup we've seen a lot just through the years, right? Like these you got the safe blind tank versus like this early game kind of damage champion, and we'll have to see what Kenji can do on it, because Kenji's looked alright so far, but I don't know if I've seen too much from them, and this is a great opportunity for them on a champion like the Renekton to put some kind of early pressure and get Paragon on this scoreboard if they're in a situation, however, where they can capitalize off Forsure, as we already see some heavy trading going on up there.
Yeah, and I expect there is going to be a lot of trophy trading in this lane. Not necessarily solo kills. Somebody has to make a little bit of a mistake to let that happen. Not entirely beyond the realms of possibility. But still, you do want to just get aggressive. They did change Renekton around a couple years ago, so he's no longer just that early game focused champion. You can get involved later on. And very much his job in these later game teamfights is just going to be to go flashing, dashing, whatever you can into the backline. Make it so Chova and Maru are uncomfortable, not able to just sit and hit and do the auto attacks. Buy it a little bit of space for your carries to be able to play out these team fights. Exactly the same sort of job, though, that we're expecting For Sure to have to play. So top lane, as much as it could be explosive in the laning phase, it's all going to be about the team fights and what impact they can have later on into the game. Early game is very much going to be pretty quiet, I think. Maybe we'll have some skirmishes around these objectives, but until that point, none of these lanes scream at me as being, solo kills, although Kenji could flash here. You are within range.
I mean, he just got For Sure very low. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you can even see the players seem confused at how low they got them as Tweak and Fruity Carrots stumble into each other in the jungle, where Fruity Carrots does manage to hit them first and gets a bit more damage off, but I don't think it's too bad. Tweak can just bounce down to the bottom Scuttle Crab, so in all things considered, it should be fine. But, you know, I'm ready for some potential early action in these games. We'll have to see what these players come up with.
Yeah, I think this is the other thing that completely gives this matchup over to the Renekton, right? The Renekton doesn't have any mana to be worrying about, whereas For Sure, because he's having to sit so far back and try to farm as much as possible with those volcanic ruptures, well, he's running himself out of mana very quickly. And if he steps up here, he's going to put himself in a very bad spot. The health slowly ticking up. You could buy some items, you know, now that he's got that Ruby Crystal, he's actually in a better spot than it would otherwise seem. Still, though, it is just a bit of a rough lane.
Katsuo looking to trade onto Chover, who's actually able to get the bomb stacking up, and I like that. This mid lane matchup was going to be interesting, because, you know, when you usually see these Tristanas mid, it's something where, like, this champion will just have permanent prio, will always get the push, will play super safe. But Katsuo also has the advantage when they can, you know, they're Jace. They have more abilities than you. I can just jump on your face and hit you with more cooldowns if I so choose. So it's not a lane where Katsuo definitely can play it out. Having opted in for the phase rush as well will give them the little bit of mobility to help to keep up the chase on this Tristana if they so choose. But also, I mean, right now we're seeing a completely even 36 farm apiece split in this mid side, so nothing too extreme going on there. But who's going to win out this? Who's happier with this even game state, right? Because you have the 80 carries on the one side versus that poke comp on the other. What is better when this game gets to 20, 30, 40 minutes potentially?
Yeah, I think Gucci very much going to be happy with the way that this game is working out. Not only do they have those two ADCs, Sivir specifically, who's one of the most late-game orientated champions you could possibly imagine, sit and farm for the first 40 minutes, then get involved with your 6-item champion. But also, you've got the Ornn, so those ornaments are going to be available. Chova, he should just be able to jump away from this one. Take good damage, to be fair. Actually has to use the ulti just to buy himself a little bit of extra space. Still, though, doesn't go down, and Fruity Carrot's not going to be able to find that gank.
Yeah, and that kill only went over because Katsuo couldn't swap back to the form with that on individual cooldown, as they even get the empowered blast into Tweak here. However, Stargazing is there, so they might have to be a bit careful in how much they chase. Yes, they're only level 4, but that's still a Lulu as Katsudo drops low. But never mind that. Gnutech says, I'm going to take a kill as they get the first blood on Rel 2 games in a row. These Rel supports love getting these kills. Even topside, we see Kenji pulling in their own Dominus ultimate right there, looking to trade onto For Sure. Are not going to be able to chase this person down all the way into tower. But meanwhile, it looks like Fruity Carrots should be able to pick up those grubs.
Oh, it kind of sucks For Sure that he took that last Q. Without that last Q, actually potentially could have tried to go in, try to get on top of that Volcanic Rupture. Instead, it is just going to be, like you said, that initial kill that you're able to pick up does go over to the support. Not exactly ideal, but you're also then going to be able to trade that for those 3 grubs, and potentially could look for a dive top lane. And with For Sure as low as he is right now, this is going to be very tricky to try to deal with. Tries to use the Ornn just to clear a little bit of the wave, get a bit of damage. Still, I mean, this is bad.
Quite enough. Kenji is in here first. Tower will be tanked up, but that's going to be an easy dive. Very cleanly executed by Paragon, putting them 2-0. And I think it's so essential that Fruity Carrots gets that kill right there. Like a Zyra that can just get a bit of a gold lead themselves. Like, sure, I think Kenji would be very happy to have that gold lead themselves into this Ornn, but look at Ornn. They got Bramble Vest, right? They're not going to be a killable person in a very short time. So if you can give those kills over to your AP kind of solo AP champion right there, it's a good place to be.
This is exactly what we were expecting, right? You need to go aggressive early on with the Zyra. Like you said, an early gold lead for this champion means so much, especially into a matchup versus a Lilia, where the Lilia is looking to get a little bit later on. And you need to be ahead of the curve, because Zyra was overall expected to be a support. She's got very high base damages, not necessarily the most insane scalings. Obviously, that's been changed a little bit in recent times now that you do see Zyra more often in the jungle, but it means you can just begin to fall off. It can begin to suck a little bit later on, and so getting these early scalings, getting yourself to those breakpoints a little bit quicker helps so very much. And you don't need more gold on the Renekton. The Renekton's going to buy space just by being a big, scary crocodile in these team fights.
Definitely. So we'll have to see now with these objectives slowly being like the main targets. It looks like there wasn't even a dragon secured in return for these grubs. So that is a like open objective on the map. And with this little bit of a timer for the next grubs, we'll have to see if this is something that Tweak can look up on this Chi side to pick up that dragon, because you don't want to be giving over too many objectives for free. And looking at Fruity Carrots, they're just happily farming up their side of the jungle. They'll get this cleared up, move over to the Scuttle Crab potentially, and see where they go on the map from there. But it's not often that you see a dragon or a grubs not traded for the other. And it's a great opportunity for them to look for something and get some early stacking, because they're only one more kill away for that feat of strength stacking. And if they can get any kind of things, like, sure, the boots aren't the best upgrade, but it is something that's very valuable.
It's something interesting you can do, especially with the composition that needs to get going early. They're now going to go for 4 short again. Tweak is here, though.
Gonna look for something. Don't actually connect that Q, and with that, that's the entire fight over.
Yeah, I mean, you get the flash out of For Sure right there, so that makes this Ornn even more uncomfortable in this lane. The important thing for Sure at the moment, though, is that he doesn't die. He's going to be able to absorb all of this farm. Not so much for the CS, although that is going to be important, but more for the levels. You don't want to fall behind in the levels, because getting these ornaments for your teammates is going to be a huge part of the help that you're providing in this game, even beyond the CC and the tankiness that you can provide. So at least he doesn't die, at least he's going to be up and available, but I'm loving the proactivity right now that we are seeing out of Fruity Carrots. I love seeing Fruity Carrots right here on as aggressive a champion as possible. Give this man carries. I don't want to see him on the Sejuanis, on the Jarvans, anything like that anymore. He looks so much better when he gets to play his game.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a great example of that kind of game where you can give a player the style that they want and they can just execute and succeed on it. We do see good Chi looking towards this dragon, and they should pick it up uncontested, but in return, we're seeing Fruity Carrots getting nice vision secured over on this top side of the map, preparing for the grubs that should be spawning in just under a minute there. So that's a nice time for them to get some more objective, get that 6 grub stacking going for them, and just deny it, because on Desk they were talking about how strong these champions like Tristana will be if they have grubs, but maybe they don't even grubs. They're gonna not die as they are able to jump out of those, you know, thorns coming out with Fruity Carrots. But that, like, right now, I'm liking this little bit of aggression from Paragon.
Yeah, absolutely. They are doing very well for themselves at the moment, but I've got to be honest, it's not been early games where I've been worried about Paragon. They've looked good during their early games. They've individually been having great games. It's once it all comes together in these mid to late game team fights where there's just some decision making that's going wrong, where I'm not sure what the idea was, what the decision was, why it was decided upon, and that's where they've actually been going wrong. So it's good to see them in a lead at the moment in this game. Not a massive one, only up by about 900 gold at the moment. Yep. But it's about how they translate that into closing this game out, turning it into a Paragon victory.
Kenji forced to flash away, the sleep coming through as they will be forced to dash in, to dash back out. Fruity Carrots is there. Stranglethorns won't be enough to connect, but they will stun For Sure. For Sure is still just barely having enough damage, and I don't think Fruity Carrots has the items here to get any more kills. Chover goes in with the bomb, the buster shot, and everything. Fruity Carrots will be able to walk out of this one alive, and that does mean that Katsuo on the mid side getting his plates in return, as we even see a bit of scrapping going on bot lane. But you know what? Good Chi just showed us all we're not going down without a fight, as they managed to pick up a nice kill.
It's aggressive. I mean, Fruity Carrots, he does a metric ton of damage in that fight, but isn't quite able to complete any of those kills. That's the thing with the pre-first item Zyra, right? You really need that first item to be able to fully get unlocked. Trover now going to get jumped. Ketsuo knows that he's going to jump over the wall right here, but Fruity Carrots is still in the area.
Pink ward was dropped, so they know where Chover's going.
Oh, it's a goose chase.
Much to go. They will go under tower,
there we go.
desperately looking for maybe getting executed, but didn't work out. Ketsuo picks that up and gets the feats of warfare as well.
Yeah, the second that Fruity Carrots was still in the area, that was always going to be a kill picked up for Paragon, and that's going to be a key kill because it goes over to Ketsuo, exactly who you want to also pick up a couple of kills in this game. The damage from the Jace is going to be a big part of the ability for Paragon to win these team fights through the poke, of course, alongside the Varus, but also as a bit of all-in potential that you can use alongside Kenji's Renekton. These two champions, if they ever find a member stood a slightly out of position, you can stun them up and just one-tap them with this combo. That's a great way to kick off a team fight, win a team fight if you find that person midway through. Something to track as we move on forwards.
Yeah, Maro forced to abandon their own bot lane as Paragon send 3 people down that side. They're gonna have to walk the long way around, but it does look like actually they'll just move to mid lane to pick up a nice wave, getting tanked up by Stargazing there as Chover will pick up this bot side. So now this gold lead's still about the same, floating around 500 gold. But I think the gold is where you want it on this side of Paragon, right? We can see right there, the slight gold leads towards the Zyra, towards the Jace. Yes, Sivir has a bit of a decent chunk of gold over this Varus through what I'm guessing can only be plates. Is it going to be enough? We'll have to see, because Sivir is the kind of champion that scales up pretty hard into like 2-3 items, right?
Oh yeah, you're trying to get into the late stages of the game with this kind of composition, where your Ornn is unkillably tanky, has given ornaments out to everyone. You've got 4, maybe even 5 items onto your Sivir. Your Tristana's got all of those item break points under her belt as well. This is very much the kind of composition that wants to go late. Now, into a full poke composition, it doesn't necessarily 100% win you the game. If you get poked out for an objective, it doesn't matter how strong you are if you can't step up to it. So it's not a 100% win rate for this game to go long. Still, it would help. Tweak. Oh, he checks. I don't know if it helps. Okay, misses out. This is getting stunned. If you get stunned up right there, you are dead.
Yeah, no flash available there, and there's a lot of damage. I mean, yes, the Leandries has been conveyed. Tweak actually goes back in for this red buff.
Right.
Okay, buddy, you stouted that out once and thought it was safe, but never mind that. Giving over a kill as she just made another essential mistake right there off a bit of greediness from Tweak. You don't need that red buff, man. What are you doing?
No, the red buff was most certainly not going to be worth his life, and unfortunately with him going down, that's going to open up the rest of the map pretty hard right here for Paragon. They're going to be able to work their way down, potentially could try to catch out onto this bot lane, who are quite pushed up.
Chover
Nice
very
ult,
nicely
Chover.
using that ultimate,
Oh!
but never mind that. Neotech tries to go in with the Magnet Storm, but isn't able to connect anything as the flashes are used. And very nicely played by this little Chi duo right there to escape away from that collapse. But they have used a lot of summoners, and it looks like Dragon has just spawned, and that should probably go very easily into the pockets of Paragon.
Yeah, the thing is, this bot lane does have their item breakpoints already, so they're in a slightly stronger spot than the bot lane. Unfortunately, yeah, the second that you don't have your flashes up available, Lulu, very killable without the ulti. Maru. Yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit rough, unfortunately, towards the bottom side, and it should now just be the Drake being picked up right here for Paragon. 6 scrubs, and picking yourself up a Drake to take it 1-for-1. I think this has been an incredibly well-played early game right here out of Fruity Carrots, and I gotta be honest, also out of... Oh, his name is Lulu here. No! Why have I forgotten what his actual name is? Neotech, that's the one. Been able to pair up really well so far, move around the map incredibly well, and actually just get involved. Exactly what we wanted to see.
I mean, look at the scoreline from both Fruity Carrots and Gneotech, right? 1-0-3. They've been in 4 out of 5 of these kills together, and that's what. And this is on a rel too. It's not on like a champion where you might expect just like, you know, to press a button and get a shield where they'll be able to get an assist. No, if you're rel, you are in the fight for every one of these kill participations, and that is just a very nice thing to see. And it's just a proactive kind of gamer, and it's great to see that because you need more proactive supports in this league. Yes, you're giving up towers. Yes, you're just, you know, trading objectives back and forth. But I think Paragon's completely happy with this because they will be able to look... Well, no, they won't actually go for this bot lane tower. A bit of a
interesting
miss on the map.
That's a misplay. I mean, obviously, mid lane already went down, so it's not like this is going to be the first tower. But still, being able to pick that one up, grabbing that gold, you're already way late to any potential play around the Rift Herald in the top side. So you might as well just grab yourself that extra bit of gold bottom lane. Use that towards those second items. Yeah, really odd decision out of Paragon. And this is what we were talking about, right? Occasionally, they just make these decisions where you're left scratching your head.
Yeah, and it was like, For Sure is even close to and probably will get that topside tower themselves quite quick as we see how low that down that is. And So if anything, looking at Chober, they're going to take down this tower. So Chi is going to be able to slowly bounce this gold back their favor. I don't think Chober is going to be that greedy to stay to take down this tower. Is never mind that. But yeah, I don't think it's over for Paragon. We're definitely like, you know, we've got a point when we say like they've had these mistakes going through, but I think this is still a great opportunity for them to kind of show that this isn't like how they're going to play for the rest of this split. When we're looking at these items, I mean, Varus and Jace are both copying each other's item builds, it looks like, because we're getting a lot of matching styles down there. And it's just a matter before they get these towers down with their 6 grubs themselves.
Could potentially be a tower dive right here. Chova doesn't have the ult. He used it already to try to push Ketsuo back. At the same time, he does have a couple more friends in the area. Neotech to step back unless he wants to get caught out. We've not really got anything particularly interesting to try to fight around right now. Bot laners are just kind of staring at each other, seeing if potentially there's something to do. And it is, again, I think, a mistake that Paragon didn't pick themselves up that tier 1 tower, because they now are able to get pushed around in this bottom side. If there isn't a tower there, then you're able to play that one a little bit more aggressively. It opens you up to potentially even stealing this blue buff away from Tweak, something that really hurts the Lilia going forwards. She really does struggle to keep up with mana when clearing. If you don't have that, now going to be all good. So, you know, a couple of mistakes compounding. We'll see if it really changes anything in the end. It is just going to be a push forwards right here. Kenji might be able to pick himself up at this tower. Chova is here. We'll be able to clear up this wave at least. You can see a lot of pings going on in the mid lane right now. A dive when there's a Lulu is risky. I don't think that's potentially what they're looking for. But still, 2 minutes until the next big objective is up. Things are slowing down right here.
Yeah, they are grouping up quite heavily for this. And with the grubs, you know, you just need to land a few auto attacks, get that just slight burn onto the tower and that additional damage to get a few ticks. And eventually it will break down. It does feel like the kind of game where maybe not too much is going to happen until these objectives, you know, the dragons, the barons, that, you know, Atacans are on the map to really force someone to take something. And in this situation where it's split 1-1, that's still 3 more dragons before we're at a soul point. That's a long potential timer on this game. So we'll have to see if any of these teams are, like, you know, brave enough potentially to just take that kind of initial fight. But Chi will struggle with that initiation because, again, their comp doesn't have that trigger pull kind of playmaking potential to it, as Chober is getting chased down by Kenji. TP coming in from foreshore, and I guess that means no one's gonna brave enough to commit too much here, as everyone will just fan out.
Yeah, exactly. People are just going to back off. We do obviously have Atakan up and available in this top side, but it's not really going to be a potential for either of these teams to start it up straight up. The double ADC squad of Good Chi would melt through this one pretty quickly if they want to go for it now, potentially. They've kind of caught a lot of the Paragon members on a reset. Yeah, indeed. All the resets coming through simultaneously, and it does mean that as Paragon, there's not really any response you can try to level at this Atakan play. It goes down very slowly, but there's nobody around to even think about trying to steal it.
Yeah, Dragon not up for 20 seconds. There's like even a world here where if Chi want to play this map quick enough, I don't imagine it, but even so, I will happily trade an Atakan for a second Dragon. Like, that is an absolute... That's a crazy objective just to give over uncontested. Like, I don't know, we were talking about Paragon not playing these mid-game maps. Well, this is a prime example. Look at them. Now they're trying to force things bot side, but Marrow and Stargazing are just way too quick as they actually are forced to flash out. But that's nothing. That's a nothing burger for Paragon right there. In return, she has picked up the Atakan, got all those petals, and only now is Paragon starting up this dragon. It's just too late.
Yeah, I mean, you do pick yourself up the dragon, that's at least something here, but it really isn't a lot, right? It's not the kind of victory that you would have wanted after giving up the Atakan. You don't even pick yourself up any real towers or anything on any of these cross-map plays, and yeah, you get a couple of flashes out of the bot lane. Maru is now going to be a lot more vulnerable to the upcoming ganks, but it just isn't going to be the same. We'll see what Paragon can do. They've still got the 6 grubs, right? They're now going to be able to melt through this tier 1 tower in the mid lane, so you know, they're not just completely letting things happen to them, but yeah, like you said, mid-game decision-making out of Paragon, not necessarily their strongest point.
If that seed from Tweak hit onto 3, that could have been a potential huge, like, just kill turnaround for Chi right now. They are 5-1 behind, but they do drop the Herald here, and this is a great opportunity for them to just push through and just bounce this gold lead in a certain way. Like, yeah, they're behind 1k, but they have just been taking a lot more towers than Paragon right now, and they will even move this Herald over to top side.
Oh,
never mind. Stargazing, they need to go back. They need to go back to their license and try and get that again, because
driving school. needs a little bit of a revisit right there. Actually, that does buy a little bit of time for Kenji to get some decent damage onto this top lane tier 2 tower. This is the thing, right? The power of the 6 grubs is so strong. It means anytime you even get within breathing distance of these towers, you're going to take a huge chunk off of them, and it means that Gucci just need to stay honest, right? Yes, they are still in, I think, a pretty good spot in this game, but you just have to be careful that you keep up on top of your macro as much as possible. Don't let the tempo of the game slip away from you, because the second that you do, the second that you accidentally drop a wave bot lane, well, you've lost a tower. The second you make a mistake and send too many people bot lane, well, all of a sudden your base is cracked open in the top side. It's just something that keeps Paragon in this game, even if things start to go a little bit wrong for them as we enter this mid-game.
For sure, and you can already see Ornn with the upgraded Thornmail. For sure, will slowly start getting these levels needed to upgrade these essential items over to Good Chi, just giving them a bit of extra free gold from stats alone. And it's a nice thing to kind of judge the value from how much gold is Paragon getting through these feats of strength stats and how much gold is Chi just getting from these Ornn upgrades alone, as these items are absolutely insane. And when you have an 800 gold difference like this, those little bits is all that matters, as Chover is trying to take down Ketsuo, but that is a Jace, buddy. You don't want to get into close range with him. They will be chased down by Tweak, as that is going to be a 1-for-1 trade, as Ketsuo actually nearly wins this out, flashes forward, but doesn't have vision to go for more, doesn't connect the blast, and now just runs out of tower saying, my bad, guys. I tried, but I did not succeed.
He was out, he was home free, but actually it's just going to buy enough space and time for this mid lane to take a massive chunk. Nice route right there to stop the ulti coming through. Now you can turn, you can turn.
Oh my god, look at the engage from there. Neotech going in, looking for something, and there's Kenji taking the shutdown onto Marrow, looking to hunt down Tweak. Meanwhile, For Sure in between all the carries, Stargazing even flashing on this Lulu, trying to take down Shadow, as the auto attack will be enough. There comes the Flame Breath from this Ornn, taking down another member from Paragon, but Kenji has now wrapped around the tower, looping around to take down For Sure, as this game just suddenly got absolutely blown up. A huge collapse and a play from Paragon right there.
Well, that was a mess. That was a complete mess of a fight.
Didn't even start.
Well, we can start with the winners. Paragon come out with a massive advantage from that one, because you get a ton of damage onto that mid lane tier 2. You get a huge amount of gold onto a couple of your key carries, and Ketsuo finally coming online, 2 items. Now he's able to just one-tap any of these squishies. A couple of kills right here onto Kenji as well, as he was in the backline. With this Stridebreaker Cleaver build, that's exactly where you want to be, in the backline, being annoying, making sure people are just getting run around. But there are a couple of truly hilarious moments throughout that team fight, such as the fact that it ended up being a Stargazing versus Shadow 1v1 that results in both of them dying simultaneously. But again, with Paragon coming out on top, that's now 3 items for this Varus.
And Chover has kind of just repeated what they got themselves killed before, as they dash onto Ketsuo. It looks like Ketsuo's pressing that teleport button and will just fly away, as they're like, you know what, see you guys, I'm out of here. Ketsuo says goodbye. But look at the pings, look at the movements. Gee, it might be versus Baron.
Exactly. Now you've just watched Ketsuo ping himself into the bot lane. Know that he's now going to be delayed to this one. Can you get a steal? Come on, Fruity Carrots, what can you do?
And Rail is up front, they're in position, but they can't get there just yet. Kenji's trading onto For Sure, Tweak goes golden, and the Baron's stolen by Shadow! Picks it up with what can only be the arrow, as Paragon, in an absolute insane feat, just rob Good Chi of that objective.
Oh! What is this game? What are they doing right now? Looks like the fight might not even be done. Good Chi, walk away. You've embarrassed yourselves enough on this one. Stop. Oh boy, and they're going to lose the Drake right here on the backside of this play too. That's now going to be soul point picked up for Paragon. And it was such a good job in that fight right there from For Sure, stepping up, playing bodyguard, making sure Fruity Carrots wasn't allowed to step into the pit. Shadow, though, with this 3 items completed, Poke Varus just does so much with these piercing arrows, is going to be able to pick this one up for the team. And Paragon kind of get bailed out of a couple bad decisions that they've made right here during this mid to late game.
Definitely. I mean, bad decisions match with bad decisions. As a tweet got the reminder that if you're golden, you can't smite. And
Yep.
that's just a nice deal for Shadow there. I mean, they have a lot of damage, but there's no way that arrow should outdo a smite. So a bit of a error there, but we'll have to see what they can do because they even secure the dragon with that. That puts them on 2 mountain, 1 ocean, 3 of the grubs. They're so happy right now.
You now don't even have the golden as Tweak, so now you're so much more vulnerable to real damage rather than the fake damage that he was taking when he decided not to pick up the Baron. I mean, it happens,
Yeah.
right? And so far this has overall been an absolutely fine Lilia game. There's still plenty more game to be played right here for Tweak. A lot of situation in which to be able to redeem yourself, but it is a little bit rough, and if they do end up losing this game, if Paragon end up winning this one, it's going to be a key moment we're going to have to look back to.
Now, Paragon definitely came into this game needing a win, for sure getting a nice engage, but there's no follow-up from the rest of the team as they will just pure dive brute force onto this tower, taking down For Sure with the tower with it. Marrow trying whatever they can to free hit there, does have the spell shield to block out any more engage, as it does look like Paragon won't be able to go for much more as their health bars have dropped pretty low, as Stargazing is really doing everything in this champion's kit to keep their carries alive.
And so far, it's worked out okay. You know, hasn't been given over too many kills overall. I think the other thing to be thinking about, though, right, is that 2 items are now pretty much completed across the board. 3 items well on the way. You've now got 3 items right here on this Sivir. It's only 2 completed for Chova, but he's got that upgraded eye edge. That means he's going to be hitting like a truck. Gucci, you didn't get through the early game unscathed, let's not go that far, but only being 3k down at the point at which your composition is really, truly beginning to come online is not the end of the world. You kind of just have to wait out this Baron. Baron plus 6 grubs always going to be pretty tricky, but as long as their base doesn't get cracked open right here, now that the Baron buff has worn off, you really shouldn't have that happen. I think they're actually still in an okay place, Gucci, to be able to win this game.
And I want to see what Shadow's Serpent's Fang has been doing in here, right? Like, this item could be the absolutely clutch factor for these shields that Stargazing can pumped out. Because this, like, anti-shield, you don't necessarily need everyone to buy it, but if you have one person that can get it, it's going to be huge, as Neotech is pulling the Magnet Storm into maybe a disengage kind of fight. Even the Chains of Corruption from Shadow coming out, as we did see Ketsuo TP up for this. Baron has since fallen, so they don't have that buff anymore. But these 6 grubs should be more than enough. We do see For Sure slam it.
It's fine. That's a mechanic of the champion, right? That's definitely what he was going for in this one. Yeah. I think the thing right here is that you need a very specific kind of teamfight setup for Paragon's composition to work. Luckily, pretty much all of these teamfights have followed that path, where you get to sit for a long time with vision of your opponent, poking them out. Then you can go for these teamfights. Yeah.
Oh! Marrow!
Whoa! What?
Fruity Carriage just blew them up, and Kenji's now diving in. Paragon might actually have bitten off a bit too much here as they take the hype from that fight, as Tweak got a nice sleep onto 2, trading 1 for 1. There comes the Stranglethorn, stalking up Tweak, and an engage from Ketsuo looking for something. That's a very tanky Lilia. For sure, still frontlining this, as again, people staying alive on very little health bars, but the rest of this team is stuck between their base, and Shadow's able to snipe away Chover with an arrow, and Ketsuo's hunting down for more. We'll get polymorph, but that is a tower going over to Paragon, and they can keep looking for more.
Yeah, low health bars right now, but the base is going to be cracked open for Paragon. They're looking to move past their 0-2 record, get themselves into the win column finally. It's not going to happen right now, just going to be able to get themselves this top lane inhibitor, but that's exactly the inhibitor you want to get down right now with 40 seconds until the next Drake. It's also going to be Soul Point available for them. If they can pick this one up, Mountain Soul will make it so much harder for Good Cheese composition to work, and now with super minions pouring in through the top side of the base, it's going to make it very uncomfortable for Good Cheese to step up and try to win this fight.
Definitely. I mean, you can see those super minions. They're already charging up this top wave. The wave top lane itself wasn't even pushed in, so someone from Gucci is going to need to move there. 5 members from Paragon huddled up together in the mid lane, all charging towards this dragon that's spawning in only a few seconds. TP coming down from Chover, as this could be the last 5v5 of this fight, as now we're getting the classic pre-buff standoff.
Yeah, and this is where Paragon's composition really shines if you can land a good bit of this poke, but for right now, actually, the bodyguards of Good Chi are doing a great job. The Drake is just melting here.
Dropping low, they will go over to Chi as there's an engage from Neotech on this rail, looking for something as Foreshore is already dead. Sleep onto 2 as Varus is in a really bad spot. They're looking for the engage, goes golden themselves to buy themselves some time, as currently Paragon is burning down. Kenji does fall, making this a 1-for-1 as Ketsuo dashes back in, but this is a very tanky tweak. Marrow flashing forward very confidently, won't have the damage themselves to look for the kill, as this is only a 1-for-1. Objective did go over to Chi, but look at these minions in this top side. This is a great opportunity for Paragon to push through this mid lane because someone needs to defend these super minions.
Yep, exactly what we were saying just before that team fight ends up happening with all of these super minions pouring in through the top side. You don't quite lose one of your Nexus towers, but still it draws the Good Chi's eyes away. They have to head back to base. But they were able to get themselves the Drake key point because it extends the life of this game for at least another 5 minutes. Exactly what you're looking for. Oh no, not again.
I think
not again.
Kind of scary.
Okay. I was slightly worried they were just going to go pick themselves up another uncontested Baron on bad recall timers from Paragon. It would be very funny for that to happen to both of these teams at some point during this game. Paragon, they do get back out onto the map quickly enough. And I think the problem for Paragon in that previous team fight was that they weren't set up first. They were trying to walk into Good Chi, which is not how this composition works. The poke works when you are stood in the pit and you're poking your opponents from within, making it so it's uncomfortable for them to step up. Whereas in that fight, Good Chi, they were set up first, and then Foreshore was able to be a bodyguard, keep himself stood quite far forwards, and at least buy enough time for the Drake to go over to his team, like we said, extending this game.
Definitely. And now Foreshore at level 16, these upgraded items are coming in so clutch. That Mountain Dragon giving some extra resistances as Stargazing forced to flash and ult themselves to keep themselves alive. Even that poke coming in from Ketsuo. And that is a Lulu that is needing a base. And this is Paragon's opportunity to start up this Baron. They don't necessarily have the biggest DPS because Fruity Carrots wasn't able to set up those plants before. As we're getting a bit of a split map, Foreshore dropping low, Stargazing not having recall, Drowsy onto 2 as Varus gets knocked out of the pit, and Fruity Carrots will be able to take down Stargazing. Shadow solo has to play this max range fight, and there's no follow-up from Paragon, but maybe it's enough as Kenji just barely survives long enough to get a double kill for themselves, but Chover and Tweak stand strong, and these champions could maybe just get that as this World Seed doesn't connect onto Shadow, meaning they are able to walk out of that one. But this game, ladies and gentlemen, is not over yet.
No, and again, you can see the Super Minions pushing towards the top side. If that fight gets extended any longer, there's a threat beginning to form onto the base. This is a mess once again, but still Paragon just about coming out on top. Now they're at about a 4,000 gold lead. It's nothing massive considering we're 35 minutes into this game and nobody even gets the Baron on the backside because there's too many people dead at the end of that fight.
Exactly that. I mean, we can see Paragon, they're keeping this attention on this side of the map where the Baron is. And I think Fruity Carrots, they're even actually just going to start up this Baron here. They know that there's no vision for Chi.
Melt it.
And they could take it a lot faster now that they had that priority set up. TP coming in from Ketsuo. Kenji is being forced to walk. So they have to take this down quick. Tweak is sprinting over, has flash available, will flash in the pit, but is unable to get the steal as they will get bursted down. And Paragon have secured the Baron. Now they just need to win the fight as Shadow's desperately trying to cut out, but a huge AoE damage from Marrow does kill onto 2, but it's not quite enough as they're taken down. Chover, the last damage source available for the side of Good Chi, is getting chased down by that big crocodile. Double kill over to the Rel. Last triple kill even as they take down Chover.
Go on, get the
and they're gonna go for it. Don't quite get the quadra kill as Rel, but that Kenji crocodile came in clutch as Paragon get the Baron and the ace.
Yeah, and they may well be able to win this game right now. 30 seconds until you're gonna get Maru back. 20 right here on Tweak. You've got yourself this top lane already cracked open, and with the 6 grubs, with the Baron buff up and available right here, this is going to be game. This is going to be Paragon putting themselves in the win column finally. No more are Paragon going to be a winless team. They're going to beat Good Chi.
I have I have two incredible, regrettable words to describe the ending of that last fight. Blocks, are you ready for them? That was Bombadillo Crocodilo right there as he dove in to get that fight, to clean it up clutch. Kenji doing what they needed in the last moment to win it, and Paragon getting that much-deserved win.
Hey, it wasn't clean, right, Mac? I know you're happy right now. It wasn't clean, buddy. You know, there's still more for this team to do. But I'm so happy that Paragon finally picked themselves up a win, because throughout week 1, it felt like the pieces were there. You know, they played that absolutely crazy game in day 1. Then they just so close to winning in day 2. Finally, they managed to pick up that win, and it wasn't without its struggles, but Gucci, as a team who's actually not been looking so bad in this split, to be able to find that win in the way that they did, through their individual laning phases looking good, and then turning it into some good decisions in the mid to late game, exactly what they've been struggling with before. I'm very, very happy with that one for Paragon.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be happy with that win. I think we were talking about Paragon, they just needed a win after the 0-2 start. It seemed a bit rough, and now that they had that win, it was so absolutely essential for them. As we are going to go straight back to Desk, if I just heard that correctly. We'll be throwing it to the Desk, who will have a quick review of that game right away for you guys.
It seems like it would have been the start of the same game before. It seems like we would have gotten a slow bleed, but instead it seems like we got a much more exciting venture there, because Gucci made sure to put up as well of a fight as possible. But unfortunately, Paragon still kind of won at the end of the day. Still had trouble closing out, but I think Gucci gave him a decent run for the money. All right, so we're going to go right into the replay. We get the first replay here. Actually, don't know which one it is.
I think it's the Ketsuo Slam here.
The Ketsuo Slam, yeah. So, Rory, talk me through this play. This is kind of where things really started going well for Paragon.
Right, so it was actually about to go really well for Gucci. They were about to make a really important pick onto Ketsuo, but Shova just really underestimating the damage of Jace overall is crazy here. And Ketsuo even almost managing to find Tweak. What's more important here is, while Ketsuo is buying so much time, he draws 3 members over and allows Paragon to get pressure onto that mid tower, which then eventually falls. More gold goes over to Paragon, and that opens their ability to enter the enemy's jungle even more and place vision, which really enables that poke comp even more.
Certainly, that was kind of a play that I feel like was a good summary of the game, where Gucci just kind of tried to do things a little bit loosely, maybe saw plays individually that they thought were right, but just the stronger teamwork of Paragon kind of pulled them through. Definitely had a hard time closing out. A lot of those fights were relatively scattered. Gucci got a lot of good plays there. I think that Paragon needs to be a little bit more patient in how they use their comp, just kind of wait for Gucci to come into them a little bit more, play back, and then, get a lot of their re-engage from the Jace, from the Zyra, from a lot of those champions. So the next replay we got here, I don't know which, I wish I remembered which ones these were. It's this fun adventure in the top side. So Amelia, talk me through this, because this kind of helped Paragon out even more.
It's crazy, actually. They call up the Forge God. They look to find an engage, which is flashed, and Fruity Carrots completely one-shots Maru there. And then they can go forward. We get the Dominos out of here from the Renekton, who's then drowsy and asleep and a little too far forward. And this was an angle where we felt like maybe this is a comeback angle. But then Tweak manages to, stand a little too far in front, has to move out again. And they just cannot hard commit for these team fights, because they only have one person as a front line, which is for sure, and then Shadow can just clean this up from the distance. Also nice move from Katsuo again. And I think for me, Katsuo definitely the player to watch in this game, because number one, his damage impact was insane, but also number two, I felt like he was always in the right place at the right time, kind of looking for very nice flank angles and just always being able to play with his range and his poke very well. And for me, Gucci, their draft lacked a bit of a clear game plan, and it showed in the execution.
Definitely no clear game plan coming out from Good Chi, just a lot of wild things going around there. Paragon gonna go up to 1-2 and Good Chi down to 1-2, so still battles for the playoffs for both teams. We will need to see in the coming days how they will play out. But we are going to go to a bit of a break as we switch over to the next games of the day. So you've all seen us on the desk before as we sign off for now. I'm Frisky, Rory B is here, Mile is here. Hope you enjoyed the games we certainly did today, and we will see you guys later.
Hey, happy Easter Monday, everyone. We're here for the second half, the night shift, if you will, of the Four Nations tournament. Ilby's back. I'm still temporal. You've seen me a million times. Rob, you join us. How you doing?
How you doing, Rob?
I think we're having some technical difficulties. That or that Rob being absolutely eviscerated.
Everyone, my audio all just went silent. Everything went silent for a second there. I was like, I'm just suddenly like all alone in the void. I don't know what that's. I'm back. Hello. I'm happy to be here. I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I say happy, but I'm okay at the moment. I'm holding up all right.
He's doing his best, very invested in good cheese outcome. That's suitable for an assistant coach. So, moving forwards to the future. I think that's going to suit us a little bit better. Our third game this evening, Belfast Storm versus Rise Gaming. W, these are two middle of the pack teams. We got two seasoned UK AD carries. What's your general impression before we get into the nitty gritty details?
Yeah, so both these teams are currently in like a 1-1 standing. So it's a bit early to really read onto these teams about who's above who. I think they both have shown good strengths and weaknesses. We've got Sin versus Fuyu. These players they've known each other well. They're not like enemies, they're frenemies now, if anything. So I'm excited to see if this will be like a personal kind of just bragging rights win for these players, or if they're just gonna absolutely just tear at it and just try to be just the absolute ego person and just beat the other one up.
Rob, big rivalries in the AD carry position. Anything else you're looking for out of this one other than a result?
Versus Jamsu, right? Lovers. I mean, maybe lovers. I'm not too sure. Now turned to enemies. Maybe back to lovers again in the future. We'll never know. But they've played together for so long. They've got to be in each other's heads. They've got to know what each other wants to do. And so while the matchup Fuyu versus Sin, Fuyu was a Suffer Broad, then went to Paragon last split. That's a storied AD carry matchup. For me, the big thing is who comes out on top, Sin or Jamsu. And Brods, meanwhile, are sat in the background going, which is my favorite child? Which is my favorite child?
My kids, they've fled the nest. Talking of fleeing the nest, let's have a look at Belfast Storm as roster for this evening.
Yeah, here we have Shadow of Chains, Tofu, Wicked, Fuyu, and Jamsu. All looking absolutely great in their pictures. And tonight, the one player from this roster I want to look at the most, honestly, is going to be Shadow of Chains. Their week one, day one debut on, if I remember, a Jace was just absolutely insane, tore their opponents apart, and just 1v9 the game. Their second game was on an Mbessa, you saw nothing. So, this player's given us everything. They've given us a not so much game. Where do they stand? Are they really like an all or nothing kind of top laner? Can they kind of fit in a team in a position where they're not necessarily the carry in the game? I don't know. This is what a game 3 is perfect to show, because now we can see a bit more about the styles of these players.
All right, Rob, feast or famine in the top lane. Let's have a look at Rise Gaming's roster. What are you looking for this evening?
Yeah, so we have quite a few of these players, very well-known players in the UK scene. In top lane, Aniki coming in this split, played in Bandits 2.0 in the open quals. Trizzy in jungle, well-known UK jungler. BB in Irish mid laner, last played on Natives Academy, last split in Div 2, but he's been around a long time. And then in bot lane, Sin and Nemeni. Sin, storied UK ADC. And Nemeni, that's Sack. We know him from Power. Played on a prestigious org in open calls, but he's been away for a little bit from the scene. I'm going to keep calling him the prestigious org until the end of time. It makes him to smile. I've got to call him that every single time. But no, he's back this split, really wanting to compete. So this team I'm very excited for. They managed to put a good showing against Broad and Friends, but then against Venom Crest, it kind of came apart. They played some spicy picks, but it didn't quite work out for them picking that Yorick.
Yeah. All right, we're going to slow it down. We've got a few minutes till draft. We mentioned Venom Crest. This evening, something a long time coming has come to an end. Venom Crest's undefeated run through the winter split, only dropping a game, not a series, eventually, very eventually, has come to an end. They have lost to one of the new teams in the league, a Division 2 second place of last split, 5 IQ, with a substitute in the top lane of all places. Congratulations, Noah Motley, on your 100% win rate UKL 4 Nation stat line. Gentlemen, is the power system as we knew it over, Dubby? Is it just, are we looking forward to the future? What's happening?
I mean, if there's one game to debut in this tournament, it's this one right now. And Watley, they showed up, I'm sure. I haven't had too much time to dive into how that game turned out for them, but I could only imagine that. I would like to hope that it was at least close because, these are our top two teams as we currently saw it. It was going to be whoever wins this goes to 3-0. And it looks like 5IQ, they will stay on top for this week 3.
Rob, it's an
I did catch some of it. I
Okay.
did catch a little bit of it. And the big thing I want to say, which is that they gave Kitten Lee Lulu, which is by far her best champion. They played, I believe it was a Varus Lulu bot lane on the side of Intquick into Ezreal Nico, which is a proper Panda special as well. But when you're giving over that kind of comfort, especially Warwick, it was Watley on Warwick.
Yeah,
So it's like, I think when you give over certain comfort picks, it's something where you really bring a game into the wheelhouse of these players on Intquick, which will be, they're very, very storied solo queue players, know what they're doing in that kind of scenario. And maybe the team play doesn't come together as easily when you're giving those kind of picks over. It looked to me, at least from what I saw, like Dragdar and Kittenly really took it to the bot lane of Venom Crest.
Right.
That was over on Kittenly's channel. So maybe there's a VOD later, who knows, but... It looked really solid from Intquick today, to be fair. It looked really solid.
Definitely don't have a ruffle file at the top of my downloads folder with those players' names on top of it. I'll be having a quick look through later. Maybe we'll dissect it and get some of it on the Saturday show. If you are watching on Saturdays, we do a recap sometime in the AM. But right now, we're going to generate something to recap. Rise Gaming on blue side, Belfast Storm on red as the bans come through. Nefiri to start. No surprise.
Yeah, the Furies, we've seen a lot of it so far. I mean, we saw it tonight. I mean, if we're looking at the game we are just talking about, it was picked that game. It's a very popular champion right now in the jungle role. So it's not a shocker to ever see banned, as these bans have actually just gone through so quickly. Multiple junglers being taken out, except the little Jace just hanging strong. Because honestly, I think Belfast Storm, Shadow Chains, they've made a statement. You want to ban the Jace against this guy.
It's the Trizzy tax. It's the Trizzy tax has come through for Belfast Storm. 3 banned up against Trizzy, and they're incredibly good on all those 3 champions, especially as Inzal. Amazing. Varus first pick. I don't want to say boring, but we've seen this how many millions of times at this point, so it's not surprising. But this is going through so fast. Rumble Vi makes a lot of sense. Great combo. LPL special. So it's looking like Belfast Storm is going towards this sort of very standard drafting as Rise Gaming too. So it'd be interesting if there's any diversions from the norm, because the last few games we've seen a few little surprise picks. Maybe we can get another one today, but it's at the moment this is super standard, unbelievably standard.
Belfast have paid the Trizzy tax in full, and it has left us in a sort of an odd position where I'm not sure if they want to get BB in early and then defend it in the draft. Like, are we going to go down to 5 jungle bans with this Renekton lock-in to match up into Shadow's Rumble? We're not taking the Galio line, we're taking Bloodshed.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for them to really decide what they want to go for here. I think I would personally rather see them go for a Trizzy pick, as the Vigiogo will be locked in. I think BB has more champions available, but if they don't lock in a Trizzy champ right there, and with 2 more extra bans, could be in danger. But if I Storm will nicely pick up an AD carry for themselves.
I mean, at the moment, this is...
We'll see there at the moment.
Yeah, this is pretty standard. Nothing particularly surprising. Again, I'm interested to see where if they don't really go towards banning out BB Muffin in mid, they're going towards the Braum ban. I'm not necessarily. I can understand that with like the Vi. Obviously, you don't want to run into the Braum short range ADC as well in the Sivir. So support bans coming through on both sides. When you're in a pinch, I do wonder where these 2 supports go to, because Nemeni, really deep champion ones, there's the Taric, for example, historically a very good Taric player, but Nemeni can play enchanters as well, can play stuff like Ajana, can play stuff as well at mages. So Jamsu, on the other hand, the Nautilus is what we expect to be banned here. It's the Jamsu special. And then it's going to be like, what's left? Leona, Alistair? This is where I think the support ball might be going here, at least for Belfast Storm. And on the other side, don't forget this mid lane pick. Nothing has been targeted at BB Muffin. He has his complete choice of whatever setup mid lane you want to take for this Viego.
Yeah, no, Syndra as a last rotation for Rise goes pretty hard in my mind. Anything else that we're looking for otherwise? I think Belfast Storm probably just going to drop the jungler, help their mid laner in here.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see like a support last pick. A while back I would have been against the support last pick, but I mean, maybe they're just agreeing with my older opinions. As never mind that. And Nautilus locked in. That's a lot of follow-up. Like, that's a lot of, single click engage. Tofu with that, and Fuyu, they can really just run not Fuyu, Jamsu on it. I like it. But I'm not sure if it'll pay off, as we'll have to see what Rise can, because Rise, they can do a lot of picks into this still to kind of shut down Belfast right now.
Yeah, Alistair won.
Ooh.
Not. This
No
is
worries.
funky. This is a funky end to it off. This came very quickly as well. I was about to say Silas for Alistair. Oh, it seems like a pick you'd go for here.
Yeah.
It is also in Wicked's Wheelhouse, mostly a melee mid laner. The Jamsu Nautilus, I literally was said it's the Jamsu special. Personally, but the Rise is incredibly strong at the moment. Like Rise at the moment is really rising up, especially with the changes to Rod of Ages, right? You get those double Ruby Crystals. Honestly, Ruby Crystal as an item might actually need a nerf because you just stack them. You stack HP and it's very hard for you to die in lanes on these kind of mages. So at the moment, we're seeing the Rise. This is a really, really interesting draft because it's just like really, really interesting to see the Rise come through.
Yeah, it's powerful. I think it deals with a lot of the approach the Belfast Storm are bringing. You want to go in, you want to go hard, but the Rise has got 4,000 health and 4,000 mana.
Yeah.
He's going to use all of it quite quickly to sort of machine gun through your front line. I am sort of leaning towards Rise's comp on that front. So I think they have a little bit more management of the way Belfast Storm want to play. Whereas if Belfast are engaging, they're trying to control positions with equalizers, you're still going into pretty hard targets. And that does require, in my mind, a better early game. Dobby, what's your overall impression?
I mean, when I first saw this, Silas, I'm like, okay, it's a champion that Wicked will enjoy. What ultimates can they take here? The Alistair Unbreakable will be great. The Viego one, I don't see that too much. He got the chains from Varus. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for it. But how much are they going to be able to survive this mid lane? Rise can definitely give them a bit of a stressful time, but it should be overall an evenly matched mid lane. But overall, I want to see Belfast Storm just send it in a fight. That's what they need to do. When you have the Rumble, the Vi, the Nautilus, the Sivir, just everyone that can just charge forward, you got to send it at Rise Gaming. And it's all going to come down to seeing what can Alistair do here to disengage, to buy time for their team. Because if one person gets taken down from Rise, it could be absolute destruction for them.
All right, I'm pretty excited about it. Smash and grab from Belfast. Rob, who's going to win? How long is it going to take?
See, having seen these games recently, I put Rise in. If you put name tags on, Rise is definitely the one for me, just because I think they've got as players, they're generally a better team from what I've seen. However, I can definitely see ways that Belfast win this. I'm going to go for Rise. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few mistakes from Sin on this Varus, instantly gets killed on via Rumble. You could easily see a way in for the game for Belfast, but for me, I'm going to go Rise just based on the players and the people.
We're Rise favored.
More
it's
opinion.
It's going to be a close game. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty close game. Let's see if Belfast can smash grab, form their way out of this one. Take it away, Rob.
And welcome, everybody. We are here. Game number 3 just about to get underway. We have gone through the draft. I'm really excited because I like both of these drafts. Both of these drafts are very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was also on desk. Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
Hi. No, it's very, very interesting, Josh, because I think both of them you can see inroads right into how they could potentially win a game. You can see targets maybe for the one main target, Varus, for the Vi Rumble, and on the other side, you also can see that there's a lot of tanky members here. They can maybe dissuade that dive, and if they start getting leads on the Varus, he gets an Edge of Night, which is something I didn't manage to bring up. If he goes poke Varus, which is not Sin's favorite, but a poke Varus with Edge of Night here, it's going to be a lot harder to get on top of him, and then they can start playing with these tankier members. Rise gets online, and this champion, by the way, I can't say it enough, this champion is so strong at the moment.
Yeah, I think the other thing that caught my eye, too, is there is set up for this Viego in every lane. There is the root in the mid lane from Rise. There's the stun from the Renekton, the Alistar in the bot lane. You're even looking at a certain point, Rise is going to be able to push waves and shove, have that ult available to go down to the bot lane or the top lane. There's a lot of possibilities here to see if we can get this Viego online.
And team fights as well, right? When you play team fights with Viego, it's very first target, blow them up, get the Viego reset, look for the next kill, onto the next. And you have opportunities to do that here as well in team fights. It's not just in the lane. You've got that Renekton setup, Rise, as you said as well, incredible. All of them for both lane and team fights means that Trizzy, who he's picked up this Viego this split. I mean, I don't know if you were casting any UK stuff when Trizzy was playing before, but this guy, Gwen Connoisseur, Xin Zhao, absolute maniac on that champion, then Kindred, Diana as well as his sort of fourth pick hovering around, but he's picked up Viego properly this split in solo queue, as well as I'm assuming in scrims. And he's looked pretty good on it in the 2 games he's played. So you're setting up a player that has a very high ceiling in a game where you can see the game plan, which is kind of why I favor the Rise draft. But again, I guess we should go to Belfast Storm. They're going very LPL. Let's be honest. It's a very LPL style draft with the Vi Rumble early on. And these kind of drafts, when you add the Silas on top, which is one of Wicked's favorite champs, they might also be able to play a similar style. Choose the first target, blow them up with Vi Rumble Silas, and then you move on to the next. So these could be very explosive fights.
Yeah, you're also looking at the Silas with the Alistar ult specifically, going to be able to just tank a bunch in frontline there where you don't have it otherwise. But we are into game. Rise on the blue side, Belfast Storm on the red, and we already have some grouping going on from Rise.
Maybe a funky little level 1 invade here. They aren't that bad on the level 1. Maybe they're just stacking to C as a counter because they're not moving at the moment. Maybe just waiting. If they can catch Fuyu out here, this would be a good start to this bot lane, which I do think this Varus wants to be looking to get leads early on. He has gone for lethal tempo, so he's not going towards that poke Varus, so no Edge of Night, so therefore a good target for Vi Rumble. Later on in this game, just keep that one sort of in the back of our minds as we go later into the game. But they've gone off the invade, going back to more standard cover. Not much information gathered from both sides here early on, though. Thousand Eyes, not much vision push for in the enemy jungle. So although standard starts, not much information on the pathing of either jungler.
Nobody wants to take the early risk, it seems here, which kind of makes sense. Nobody's level 1 is the greatest. Alistar specifically, not a huge fan of level 1, but gonna be just an early. Oh, we are gonna get a little bit of extra info. Silas gonna walk down. Wicked will put that red ward down by the Raptors, and they will have an idea that Viego probably starting on that top side eventually.
So let's see if Belfast can use this information, right? You've managed to gain some idea about where the Viego's starting. At this point, once you see him sort of move to a second or third camp, you'll know that the Viego started top, therefore pathing bot. See if Tofu can sort of manipulate that and be able to maybe make some plays on top lane, because even though there's not much setup for the Rumble, getting this Renekton put behind would be great for Shadow in the top lane, who we've seen him on the Jace. Interested to see him play a Rumble, which is a very different style of champion. And he's going to be much more reliant on his team, whereas, let's be honest, in that Paragon game, he was pretty 1v9.
Yeah, it's going to be up to some setup here. The Rumble's great, but you got to make sure you can get Rumble in a position where you can get the equalizer down, you can get the flamethrower across a bunch of people, and be able to do your job. Not easy to do on your own. Not going to be the fun lane against this Renekton either.
It's not particularly enjoyable early on. A bit later, if the Rumble can kind of hold their ground, but early on, Renekton, as is in most matchups, kind of just pushes the wave of
Renekton and X. Just put whatever champion there.
Yeah, it just all generally pushes the matchup early on, is able to at least get some prior for his jungler. Aniki has to be a bit concerned because they don't have information on Vi. They do now that there was a ward on the Raptors, so they know Vi is wrapping around here. Got to be careful. He's got to get this crash, got to get out of there. Otherwise, giving this early kill is a possibility. Does seem to show some respect and back off, but the wave is in a horrible spot here at the moment. For Aniki, he's not managed to get it in.
Yeah, and it's very scary to try and get this in at this point. You know the Vi is probably up at those Krugs looking for an opportunity here. Also, I want to point out here, Sid is running the lethal tempo, so it does not seem to be that lethality Varus, which is a lot scarier into something like that Vi.
Yeah, a lot scarier, and as I say, it kind of gives them a target now, right, Belfast Storm? Before, if that Edge of Night had come through, no target. Now there is someone they can jump on, because let's be real, if you look at the other four members, either you're one-shotting the Viego or the Varus, you're not going after Renekton, you're not going after Rise once he gets that HP online from Rod and gets the shield from Xerath, and you're not going after the Alistar, as this gank in top lane is coming through, but it's a little bit late from Tofu, because this wave is now pushing back into the Renekton, and this early game, a little bit cagey. But no real, CS lead in mid lane, but no other leads elsewhere on the map. And Remy's got to be a little bit careful, or rather, BB Muff has got to be careful because
that one's going to mess me up.
Yeah, it's going to mess me up as well. He is a bit susceptible to being ganked here, and it's just going to be ganked. And is he going to be? Nope, no flash. He's just going to get out with the cover from Drizzy.
Yeah, just going to move around there, and we're going to make sure Tofu can get out as well. Nobody wanting to pull the trigger just yet. Not hitting any strong breakpoints. Bot lane has also just been kind of a farm fest. Sin and many have had control of this lane, and that's why they're moving up here as Tofu wants to get the Gromp. Trizzy wants it too.
Yeah, and this is a good little invade coming in here from Rise because they're using the Pro in bot lane. Sin is already here. It's going to be a 3v3 over the Gromp.
They get the Gromp, and now they're just going to back away. A win for Rise Gaming, but a lot used everybody shows up for a Gromp.
I mean, I respect the fact that Belfast Storm are backing up their jungler. It's very easy there to say, I want my minions. But there's a fight in bot lane, but just a little trade back and forth as we expect. Nothing really expected to happen. Alistair able to really play that sort of style where he can just dissuade the Nautilus going in with one headbutt, not even needing to pulverize. So we shouldn't expect much action here in bot lane, but Sin is very low.
Yeah, Sin low. It is Sivir. This is not the most threatening AD carry, but the Nautilus is kind of the worry here. Got to get the root onto Many. As Fuyu throws out the Boomerang Blade, damage is done, and now you can see control gain. Mid lane in the meantime, though, damage being put down onto Wicked.
No.
Can't get the kill in the tower. Helps. Tofu gets first blood.
Oh, and that's a mistake we've seen BB Muffin make quite a lot. I'm going to have to keep correcting that name as you've said it in my head now, every time I'm reading Remy over and over again. No, BB Muffin's made this mistake quite a lot in lane. He plays very aggressive, very up in the enemy face. He does have a good CS lead, but that results in a kill going over to the Vi, which, to be honest, is probably a better target for Ryze to actually have the enemy gold on rather than the Silas, who would be getting that Alistair ult, and it would be very, very scary in these early skirmishes. But they both come back, going that Rod Bill as well on the Silas, so he's going to be incredibly tanky. It's a little mistake early on from BB Muffin, but the Grubs, they're going to go over to the side of Ryze because Tofu's kind of used his turn, but he's looking mid again. He's pinging. They're pinging for a 3v3 in mid.
Both supports are here too. Wicked already taking a lot of damage. They know they want to get this over so they can walk up to the Grubs. Ryze should be able to confirm those pretty easily. And right now, Belfast hovering around the Dragon area, which we did get a lane swap, by the way. Ryze have taken their bot lane to the top side, and Aniki maybe not in the best of positions at the moment.
I mean, Ryze also the ones who initiated this. So if he gets caught here, this is a disaster, as Renekton does have ult, but he's very, very low.
Aniki not using the flash. Fuyu's looking, not gonna get it. The flash did not need to be used, but a lot of HP sacrifice, and that gives away control of the Dragon Pit.
And now we're seeing, look, they're swapping back here, right? So they've recognized this. Caught Wicked, though.
There's the Silas ult, grabbing the Alistar. Very tanky right now, but not doing enough damage. There's 3 people. Trizzy ulting over the wall. Wicked, barely alive. Flash Trizzy grabs the kill, and the Viego is online.
I mean, that's exactly who Ryze want the gold to be on, isn't it? It's Trizzy getting the early kill. They're going to also get control over this Dragon area with the Silas falling, so maybe they can look towards that. Aniki played quite aggressive there and almost got caught out and almost cost Ryze. Didn't really matter in the end because they got the Grubs, they moved straight back down to Dragon, immediately called to swap those lanes back. And Wicked just got caught out in the enemy jungle. Didn't think he'd meet an Alistair and a Viego waltzing there around the Raptors. And that's just a kill going over, and the Dragon. Ryze are getting everything in this early game objective-wise.
It's a big mistake by Wicked there. All of that pressure gained by forcing Aniki back, lost immediately. And you can see the Dragon going to go over. That's 2 objectives picked up by Ryze already in this game.
And I just want to shout out here the jungle support synergy of Ryze right there. The support comes up to assist on the Grubs and walks together through the jungle to manage to pick up Wicked. A lot of teams end up having junglers and supports that end up being split. Not the case of Ryze today. Nemeni and Trizzy being on the complete same page. But you've got to be a bit careful because there's a 4-man happening bot lane here for Belfast Storm. They're just trying to respond to what Ryze are doing.
Damage done, though, and Fuyu does go down, so this is at least a 1-for-1. Viol going to be used, and yeah, I don't think Sin's getting out of that one. 1-for-1, lot of resources used by Belfast to make sure that goes even.
And you just see the pings as well on the minimap, the pings on the camps of Tofu, because they're saying, well, you can't have possibly taken them because you were on the bot side making a play earlier, and now you're going back to bot side, so you've got your camps top have got to be up. And this is something that Trizzy does so well. He's so comfortable in these counter-jungling situations. Vi is rushing here. Tofu is running to defend his topside camps.
Smites away the Raptor. Jamsu gonna show up, not hit the hook, and Trizzy walks away just a little bit richer.
Only a little bit. It could have been a lot worse if they hadn't recognized that. They're now pinging for the top side. This is, you're seeing the support jungle synergy of Belfast Storm coming through as Jamsu's also on the top side with his Vi. Aniki has to be a bit careful because he is going to be able to be blown up.
Does still have the ult available, so the extra health is around. But there are 4 people looking to go for this dive here. Do have Trizzy and Nemeni walking up in the meantime, and I think Belfast took a little bit too long. They're going to disengage.
And this game looks like it's going to come down to a team's going to look for a play, and what is the team's response? And a lot of it has just been dissuading the team from making that play in the first place. Immediately there, Belfast say, we want to go top. Let's try and dive this objective. Might have dominance. Let's get 4 members up there. Rise recognize that, and Nemeni's already up in support. Trizzy's already up in support. Push them out of that top side jungle, which, though it wasn't up, it would have been a threat to Aniki's life if they had let everyone in there from Belfast Storm. We'll have to see where the first team that sort of slips up on this, though, right? Because are they count, punch and counter punch kind of style? Because once that happens, often games snowball out of control where maybe it's around the next dragon. Maybe it's around another dive opportunity either in bot or top, because it is quite easy for Belfast Storm to look for a dive here with Nautilus and Vi. I just have to see if they respect this, because this would be the objective going over. They're going to fight over these grubs to the death here, Thousand Eyes.
Absolutely. Tofu's already in the pit. Tofu and Trizzy just looking at each other as both supports again in the mid lane right now. First move by Rise as they're going to walk over. Tofu, if you could just get one of them, you stop the objective bounty. But now Tofu walking into the bush, going to get knocked up by the Alistar. Nemeni forcing this Vi out. Going to go back in with the ult and does get the kill. Feat of Warfare going to Belfast Storm. Now Jamsu trying to help out, but there is Aniki grabbing the kill on the Vi, on the Nautilus, and Shadow flashing away. The fight does not go Belfast's way.
And it looked so good to begin with for Rise, and then it looked good for Belfast Storm as this fight continues in the top lane. And Aniki just trying to run down Wicked, who I imagine it should get out here alive.
The red buff is kind of strong here. Aniki slowly putting down some damage. There's the ult steal, and Aniki will back away, but still, Aniki kind of scary right now.
Yeah, this Crocodile early on into these melee champions, really scary as Wicked. He's still looking for the fight, but Aniki's trade is very good. They're just still fighting. Okay, let's take a breather, guys. Never mind, we're not taking a breather. We're coming, sending 2 more people topside to get the grubs. Either way.
They're still here.
They're still here.
We need to take them. Objective bounty is on the board for Rise. They do need to get this if they want to have a chance to get those extra boots.
Yeah, and they do get them. So that is going to end up being... I'd have to check. Yep. That is going to end up being the feat of monster slaying going over to Rise. No, yes it is. Never mind. My brain is going crazy.
No,
either way, there's a dive going bot lane here on Sin. He's got to be a bit careful. I said really easy to dive here. There's no Viol, so it's going to be a bit harder to get this kill. There is no Nautilus ult either, so... Dodge the hook or die.
No mana on the Sivir right now. Hook does hit. Flash away from the Vi. And now the turnaround. Teleport coming in from BB Muffin. Gets the root. In comes Nemeni. There's the knock-up. And Tofu goes down again. Dive gone wrong.
Yeah, and look at the CS difference in jungle as well. Tofu is sacrificing everything here to try and get these plays off. First around those grubs where they initially go in, they managed to blow up Trizzy, but it didn't end up going the way of Belfast Storm. Now in bot lane, they look for another play and just sort of force it in bot because they need to get something. Where are you going to get this gold on? Well, we need to get it on a carry somewhere. Let's try and get it on Sivir. And it goes completely wrong. The counterplay coming out of BB Muffin, the TP, Nemeni being there. And Rise, from a game state that was pretty even with Belfast Storm, have come up with 2 very good picks or kills here, or teamfight wins rather, that really could start snowballing this game because Dragon is spawning.
Yeah, we do have a pause, so we're going to come back to our faces here. But right now, like we said, Rise in a very good position. We talked about how much there's been that reaction to everybody's plays, and it feels like Rise just have been a step ahead more often.
Just sort of a couple steps ahead. It doesn't look like they're really taking control of the entire game, but they are able to sort of counteract at least what Belfast Storm look like they want to do. And this is something that we've seen Tofu do in the past as well, where he loses the fight topside and he kind of doubles down on making a play somewhere else rather than saying, okay, even though I'm playing Vi, I'll sit back, I'll take my camps, because he just ran straight bot there. His bot camps are up, so he's just immediately gone, let's just make a play on the other side and try and make something happen. And it's very difficult to pull that off when you don't have those really heavily impacting ults available, like the Vi cease and desist, like the Nautilus depth charge. Those not being up means that Sin is not chain CC'd, able to ult then flash away. Yeah. And you end up giving over a kill to the counterpunch.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got the issue too of you're not paying attention to that teleport from BB Muffin being available and ready to go. Just go in a little bit too haphazardly, pay the price for it. We are in a little bit of a freeze frame. Game will be starting there as we get back into it. And again, yeah, a 2,000 gold lead for Rise 13 minutes into this game.
And you would have said, if you'd gone back about 5 minutes, you'd have said, not sure which team is going to come out with a massive advantage here. As soon as someone slips up, that's going to be where the lead balloons. And it seems to be that Belfast Storm were the ones to slip up, and Rise are running away with it, where get this second dragon, no real contest possible, only the fight afterwards. It doesn't matter. If Nemeni dies, you've got the dragon. But it looks like they're going to go for the fight anyway.
The Alistar's too tanky, can't kill him, and Jamsu falls as Rise get the dragon, get a kill, and they are really starting to pull ahead in this game.
Yeah, and again, you're trying to jump onto at the moment, the tankiest member of Rise Gaming. This Alistair is just not someone you can blow up if he has that unbreakable will available. And just immediately as they get the dragon, Rise turn on it. Wicked might look for the 1v1 here, Faker style in Worlds Finals, because his team needs something. They need something to rally behind.
They absolutely. We're hitting the point where Belfast Storm need to find their answer. They need to find something to get going because they've been losing objectives. They've been losing out on the fights. They've been struggling on the towers as well, as towers look a little bit more in danger for Belfast. Something's got to give here.
They've got to find something in quickly, and I don't know if Renekton is honestly the one, but he walks up.
Damage is being done. Cease and desist use. Shadow going forward, but the damage is not enough. Gonna hit another Vaiku. In comes Trizzy, and the damage is too much. Tofu goes down again, resets. Jamsu falls next. A double kill for Trizzy, and they're gonna try and chase down Shadow, who will get away, but it's another failed engage.
And Rise are really reading Belfast Storm like a book. They they were already moving up on that play, Thousand Eyes, so they were already expecting there to be something that Belfast Storm were trying to do on the top side. Jungle support of Rise read it, they're there in time, Trizzy picks up a couple kills, and right now this game is falling even further behind. Look at the gold, it's now gone to about 4k gold lead is going to come up soon, because they're going to get this mid turret, and then it's going to go further and further. This is something that Belfast Storm now have to find another play, and you're slowly falling behind. It's harder and harder to make those kind of plays.
Yeah, more and more. And we see Tower on the bot side going to go down. That is the feats given over to Rise, so their boots going to be a little bit stronger now. And why not? They've already got a really strong lead in this game. Specifically, too, I want to call out Trizzy. Being 3-1 now, you always want your Viego to start snowballing to be useful, and we've really hit that stride.
3-1 with like a 40 CS lead. That's a phenomenal jungle performance from Trizzy on a champion that until this split we weren't really that confident on him playing potentially. Had those other champs in his repertoire, but Viego has now been his go-to in these games. 3 games on that. He's looked pretty good in each of them. This game might be his best. He's kind of running laps around Tofu at this point, always there when Tofu needs him. But now Belfast are looking for something else. 4 members bot side. Let's see. They're trying to play Punish the Renekton. It's not a game that you're going to win.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like every time we're like, okay, Belfast, they're bringing everybody to try and make another play, and these are resources being lost in the meantime. You can see Trizzy up on that top side, starting up on the Rift Herald. While this is all going on, there's no way to respond from this from Belfast. They're going to have to make the re-engage on this if they want to take it, and I don't think they do.
Do you really want to play into this? Renekton doesn't have TP, so there is a potential here to take a 4v4. It's close.
It's been used. Fuyu can't get in range. No, we do not want to go that far. Wicked flashes away, realizes the mistake, but it might be too little, too late. Nemani going forward as Fuyu hitting the boomerang blades, not doing enough damage. Everybody is falling. Belfast Storm don't have the health bars to fight this, and it's just more gold to Rise.
And that was unbelievably disrespectful from Wicked there, right? He just sort of, he sees his Sivir, ults him in, and then overextends massively into a team that, as we've said, they're incredibly good at finding first target. Aniki here in a bit of trouble, though.
Ult used teleport as well from BB. Will show up and give the extra help. They really, really would love to get this tower. They're going to go forward. Flash being burned by Shadow. In comes Tofu again. No ult this time, and the damage is really scary. They can tank this for a while. Nobody's really squishy, and they do get another kill onto Tofu. 2 and 4 now. Sin in trouble at the same time, putting down the damage, flashes away, and the Triumph heal is enough. Trizzy still alive, ults forward, goes on to Jamsu, looking for the reset, can't get it. Hook into the tower, will be a 1-for-1. Wicked doing the damage, finally gonna try and get Trizzy down, shut down, over to Wicked.
But look how long it takes Belfast Storm to actually get a kill. It's insane. They lose Toph on the bot side. We were saying this team was really good at playing, kill one target, blow them up, CC them, and go on to the next on the side of Ryzen. It's what they want to be doing. They do that on Toph under the turret. And then they try and make a play onto Sin in mid lane. And honestly, Sin glides on them in that situation, Thousand Eyes. That guy just unlocked his inner power of becoming ruler or something, because he's just absolutely takes them to town, flashes away and survives thanks to Triumph. And then Trizzy's in there. Nemeni immediately calls for the counter engage. And yes, the shutdown goes over to Silas, but so much more gold goes into the back pocket of Rise. And now they're just playing for this dragon. Belfast Storm are on the ropes. And they've got to come up with something magical.
It's kind of scary when Nemani can just take that and not even be worried. Just gets out of that pretty freely here. Dragon is going to be started up by Belfast Storm. They're the first team here. Teleport available for Aniki. It's going to be used now. They're looking to force this fight. Trizzy moving forward. Nemani needs to be the one to hit the headbutt Palv for the fight. And they're just going to take control of the Dragon right now.
And this is kind of an illegal take here to try for Belfast Storm. They have to go for something, though. Get
Jamsu?
some sort of advantage. They're going in.
Jamsu's going in. Jamsu's not that tanky, though. It is going to die. Reset for Trizzy. Moving forward. Nemani's tanky enough to walk up. They go in even further. There's the Sivir gone. Tofu falls again. And Rise get everything, every single step of the way.
And it's just Belfast Storm. Honestly, some people would call that an illegal dragon start, to be honest. We see you can't trying to do that into a team as strong as this Rise Gaming roster has now shown to be is very, very hard when you're this far behind. And they just get punished for it. They have to take a fight. It's not going to go well for them. They don't really have the strength. They don't really have the numbers. They don't really have any gold on their side. And it's just going to be now what you'd assume to be is the bleed out effect of now losing that fight. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very worried now for Belfast Storm for the rest of this game. I was worried for them about 5 minutes ago, but here, this is kind of the death now. This is their last fight. The next fight that happens will be the last fight. It's going to be the last gasp of a team trying to win this game because they're really out of time. And I just want to point out here, Rumble is 0-0-0. They haven't been able to pull off a Vi Rumble ult combo for the entirety of the game.
I mean, Shadow's just like, guys, what's going on? The entire rest of the map falling apart. I've just been farming. I mean, Wicked does have 3 kills, which is something. It's just, they've always been grabbing kills at the expense of more teammates being lost. Otacon going to be started up, going to be taken here by Rise. Belfast don't even have a tower they can pressure in the meantime, and it's more stats, more objectives going over to Rise.
And they're just getting absolutely everything they want here on the Rift, right? Dragon is going to be up as well in 3 minutes. If they want to slow down the game and fight for that, that's pretty much a win condition right there. They could just brawl them across the map if they want to. They should be looking here. They're pinging on the top turrets. They're immediately calling, okay, we don't need to do anything on the bot side. They can have that if they want. We're just going to go, our next objective choice is the top turrets. We're going to go for that. And Wicked is so far up trying to fight this Renekton. He's got to be careful about people jumping on him here. Because even though it's just the Alistar, the Renekton does do a lot of damage already at the moment.
Hijack is ready, can take the Alistar ult. Not going to opt to do so. Wants to wait for the fight opportunity, because I think if there is ever a way to win a fight, it is this Silas getting Alistar ult and being able to just fight it out. Wicked now fighting under tower. Nemani tanks a couple tower shots, will lose a little bit. Now the Alistar ult taken. Sin does not hit the corrupted chains. Will be another disengage, but Belfast, again, nothing they can really respond with.
Even if they get the bot turret here, it's completely losing. And in mid lane, Civ is caught. This is a disaster. This is a complete disaster for Rise. They could lose the entire game off of that one pick in mid lane.
Not looking good right now. Rift Herald used 2 tier 3 towers about to fall at about the same time. Even going to get the hit on to the inhibitor. Things looking bad here. There's no way they're going to get this one. Okay, yeah. Smites it. Doesn't let that go. Fight could be the last fight. There's the Rumble ult. Could be enough damage. But do they have the ability? Wicked does not have the HP, though. And Rise are too strong. Another win. Another easy fight for them. And it looks like the Nexus Towers are next.
And unless the Sivir Rumble combo can make a miraculous play here, it looks like it will be, as they're just being pushed off of their Nexus turrets. Bit overextension from Trizzy, so maybe this game isn't over yet, though, Thousand Eyes.
They're going to back away. Even using the Rise ult here, just not looking to overextend. I think, honestly, good call with the state of the health bars. So, not terrible here. Rise, though, again, just what do you do? what do you do against Rise to try and get back into this game at this point? You pulled off the Rumble ult, still wasn't enough.
You're so far behind. I mean, we just see there the gold. It's basically 2k in every position, giving you this sort of 10k gold advantage. And when everyone on the enemy team is just 2,000 gold ahead of you, it's hard to find that one person you can actually jump on and kill. Usually, you'd have one member. You go, okay, they're kind of in this game. No real members of Belfast Storm are really in this game compared to how strong Rise are, and that's now got to be a worry where they've got to go for it again, and they're still behind even more gold, right? They tried the Rumble ult, they tried the combo at their Nexus to defend it. They just pulled it off in the sense of there were blinking health bars on Rise, and there was one member left of Belfast Storm. The next fight is not going to be any easier, so they've got to look for something, and I don't really know where you go from here. It's going to be very, very hard. Maybe a stolen Varus ult on a pick, but that requires Rise to make mistakes. And this team so far, even in the Lost versus Venom Crest, early on in that game they looked pretty good, at least to my eyes. They don't seem to make as many mistakes as some of the other teams in the league. Trying to catch them out here is going to be very, very difficult, as they just get the Soul as well.
Yep.
Against Hex Soul, I wish you the best of luck, Belfast Storm.
I mean, that was kind of one of the things that I was seeing going into this, is both teams are 1-1, but the fight's just gonna start. Shadow gone already. Wicked way too far forward. The Rise ult finally being used for those picks, and the resets coming through again for Trizzy. 3 members left, 1 Nexus turret. Not much time for Belfast Storm, as they are going to look to get this flash hook engage. Ult onto the Varus. Damage cannot be done though, and Sin too healthy. Tower will fall. Ace to Rise in the game as well.
And I mean, this is just honestly, other than a couple kills in the early game for Belfast Storm, it was 2-2 at one point. An incredibly clean game coming out of Rise. From start to finish, once they got that small lead around those mistakes that Belfast Storm made, walking into the jungle, getting caught, trying to make a play top, getting caught, Rise were like, right, game's over. And they just took control from that moment onwards, and they just didn't let go. And that's the sign of a great team, because when you are in those leads, you aren't making flip plays. You're just making the consistently good play every single time. Incredible game by Rise. Really incredible game by Rise.
Absolutely. It felt like both teams were attempting to do the same thing. Rise just executed better. But we're going to send it to a quick break. When we get back, Analyst Desk and Rob will be back once again.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Rise Gaming. You know, we had our faith and we were like, yeah, that should work out, but you know, suspend a little disbelief. Things can always slide a little sideways, but not so much straight up. The boys in green today. We were having a yammering away in the back room. I think we were pretty impressed.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't start off that quick, but the game, it just exponentially went faster and faster and faster towards Rise. It came to the point where we were watching some of Belfast Storm's plays and we just got confused because I was just like, what exactly is going on? But Rise just looked great.
All right, get through this.
Yeah, I mean, here we can see them right after Trizzy gets the Herald, Wicked just over chases and then gets collapsed, and then the rest of the team from Belfast Storm tries to save them, but isn't quite able to save their mid laner, and in doing so, not only does the mid laner die, but the rest of this roster do fall, and flashes are burned, summoners are wasted, and that was really just the moment where Rise really just started taking over control of this game.
Rob, do you think it was just trying to patch up these plays? Like, what was that big slip that really did let Rise run away with this one?
Try and catch Renekton in top lane, and Renekton walks in, and then they're already being sort of counterplayed by Rise's jungle and support. And then there's another play where Tofu wraps around to go near the second grubs. He walks sort of straight into an enemy, into the enemy team, into the bush. They get a kill initially, but they're so low they give Trizzy resets, and that's just
all right. I think he's finishing his point.
Okay, you
I can't hear it. So
I can't hear him either, but I can imagine.
We're hoping that was going out live. Excellent, good, fantastic.
Okay, good.
It's all right.
Great point,
that
Rob. Could not have said it better myself.
So
yeah,
much so my ears couldn't even comprehend it.
Yeah, it's just another plane of existence, really. I mean, I'm just there, I've transcended. I'm in nirvana. I don't know what to tell you. It's just that level of understanding of League of Legends is rarely approached within one's lifetime, and I've managed to do it. So
it happens to us all once or twice. We just get that golden moment, and with that in mind, I think it was just a big old slip from Belfast. Right? It was they needed to make the proactive plays. A lot of them ended up 1-for-1s, not advantage generation. And then as soon as that management came through from Rise, the plays generally started to snowball in one direction. With that in mind, we got someone new to look at on stream this evening. For the first time, Bulldog Academy will be on our screens, coming out from that one game we have off stream per night, up against perennial green and blues, Rodden Friends. Now both. Maybe a little bit of a sad tale. Bulldog Academy are the only team without a win. So we haven't seen a win off screen. Yep. Do we think we're going to be doing it tonight? And it's hard. It's difficult.
Is it hard? I don't know. I think it's hard to say out of just the love for this roster, for this history. But are they going to win tonight? You know what? It would be a good upset. But I can't say that I see it happening. I don't know about you, Rob, but
Dubby's just scared of Jolly. He's just scared of Jolly. The reality is, we said this in the tier list. It will be an absolute mountain to climb for Bulldog Academy to win this split with the players that they've held on. I'm not in particularly hating their players either. This is simply a case of the quality of the league, the players we've had join, and they're coming up today with the Cabbage family coming back into the league. A team that has already won the league before with Akers in the top lane. Again, they've been around for so long. This is a major test for them because they have had some hard games, right? They have faced Symbol. I believe they also faced, who was it? Int Quick as well, I think. They faced off stream. Those are two very good teams, at least teams that have looked really solid within the standings. So we'll have to see how they perform today against a team that had a really good showing against Belfast in the previous game. Brun and Friends did, but then in the first game against Rise, they looked okay, decent early on. They made an absolute disastrous dragon fight, and Rise ran away with the game. A bit almost like what we just saw in this last game. Now, this gives like a broad sort of power level within the league, because if they smack these guys down in 20 minutes, you go, okay, like they aren't sitting there with a win against. Exactly, because Belfast Storm have also looked pretty struggling. Honestly, Belfast Storm could have lost against Paragon in that first game. So that's a team that as well is hard to judge. How good are you if you face these people? These are kind of where we're putting at the bottom of the league at the moment, and so we'll see how Lord of Friends perform against what we think is the worst team.
All right, so we have our 2Bs in our fourth and final match of the day. 2B or not 2B? Bulldog Academy, Dubby, talk us through the boys that bring the spice to our
Yes, this
otherwise
is, you know what?
British crew.
I have to say, this is one of my favorite rosters to watch because, I mean, we got Heyo, we got Zeltsam, Mike, Nectarios, and Magpie, previously known as Vertex, and now in the Bulldog Academy. These guys, they worked their way up from Div 2 3 splits ago. They somehow got into Div 1, and they held it for 2 splits long. This is their 3rd split in Div 1. Some people said they shouldn't have stayed here from the start, but they've managed to stay strong. And I mean, these guys, they come out with the wacky picks every now and then to guarantee a win. And you know what? That's why I just have a bit of love for this roster because you know what? I love an underdog. And these guys have been the underdogs for not 1, not 2, but 3 splits coming in strong. So you know what? The Bulldog picking them up too just matches the name because they're just dogs through and through, but in the best way possible.
The underdogs tonight, no doubt. And yeah, the draft phase when they're on my screen is always an absolute treat, one way or another. Rob, we got Broad, we got their friends, we got their family.
But we've got friends at least. We've got Akaz in the top lane. We've got Porp in the jungle, QQR Spark and Zeta rounding out the roster. If you don't know these players and you're in the UK scene, get to know because they've been around for long enough. Generally, this split, 2 games, 1-1, didn't have, honestly, he brought it back against Belfast Storm. That game, honestly, from start to finish was Brod all the way. And if they picked up a bit of steam, if they pick up a couple wins, there's a good chance that you could see these guys sort of come into playoffs and come into their own because they have been very, very good in best of series. I'm looking at the moment to see Zeta continue that journey because I had questions about him coming into the split. That last game, he looked incredibly good, but in the game prior, he did not. And so going into this game, is it another game on Rel? Is it going to be a different support this time? How is this bot lane going to go? Because this bot lane of Nectarios and Magpie are probably the most solid performers on Bulldog, in my opinion. I think if you look at the rest of the roster, Mike in the mid lane has the Heimerdinger and Quinn, but has some weird moments. In top lane, they haven't got Sharpie like they usually do. They got Harry, Curry, or Hey You. And then in the jungle, Seltson's come in to sort of join this roster with more funky picks. That top side's quite unstable. And this bot lane of Bulldogs is where the most stability comes in. If you're smashing the most stable part in this game, it's a good look to begin with.
All right. Let's see who puts their best foot forwards in the pregame. Because we do have our draft. Bulldog Academy on the blue side. Broad and friends taking the red.
Yeah, when I look at this Bulldog Academy roster, I mean, we spoke about their players briefly. I'm excited to finally get to see Zeltsam on stream because this guy as a jungler, they're a bit of a chaotic player. They like to bring chaos into the games, and that's where they thrive the most. So you will very often see them on, like, not even like competitive carry junglers, but solo queue carry junglers, because this is the kind of champion they want to play to just really get the game snowballing and stuff. And when we're looking at these bans, like with the Yorick being banned away, I know it's not as good in jungle anymore, but I know Zeltsam was a huge Yorick jungle enjoyer. It was a pick that this guy could just pick and just absolutely just run the game crazy. So, you know what? I'm excited to see what they decide to pick this game. And if anything, if my Bulldog might even prioritize the jungler pick first for him.
And forget the Trizzy tax. It's the Academy fees right here. Is the Bard going away as well? 3, like, if that's not a hint of what we've mentioned so far, you know.
If you screenshot these,
the spice back for these bands, we really are. This is a competitive game.
Yeah, you screenshot these 3 bans, you'd be like, is this solo queue? Or is this a competitive ERL2 game? And you would
blue ones. Who does that? And they locked it in as well. I was fully expecting to let it go, but oh gosh.
I mean, we just have to let this one play out.
This Lucian.
Okay,
let's
yeah. Ari Vi, I think they might suspect this is possibly a Lucian middle that Tarios does play it. Ari Vi into Lucian makes a lot of sense, right? He tries to play aggressive, you just jump on him and kill him. I don't really know how I'm trying to analyze because we don't know where this is going. We have no idea, everyone at home, what Bulldog Academy have really decided to go for, because we know they love a funky pick. They love Tryndamere in top lane, by the way. Let's just, I didn't get to say that one, but he's a big fan of Hey You in the top lane. Nidalee for Seltsam, this is his main, one of his mains. Very, very good on this champion. I'm waiting to see a Tryndamere lock in, and then Temporal can lose his mind for another 20 minutes while he sees the rest of the draft that comes out for Bulldog.
I actually think it's quite likely that the Nidalee goes top. We'll see. I've been enjoying it.
Even, yeah?
I've leached some elo from better people on EU West just by heal baiting outrageously in top lane. It does feel like I'm back in season 1. But that's quite unlikely. Maybe top, maybe River Shen as the flex is maintained.
I mean, I did play a
Shen.
bit of Shen Jungle this split. The Shungle. I do like it, but it's not Zeltsam. That's the thing. It's not Zeltsam. Zeltsam, they need a champion that requires hands, is what I think. And that's why I would highly imagine they're going to look for this Nidalee there. As Brother Friends are picking up the Kaisa there for Spark. An AD carry that's going to be a bit nicer to see them play because it's something that's going to be a bit more exciting, a bit more active. And I think that's what maybe Broad and Friends really lacked in their first game where they did lose, was just having Spark not on this kind of playstyle AD carry. So yeah, a lot nicer to see them there.
You give Spark space, he can produce a lot. However, I want to say you're seeing a lot of dive coming out of Broad and Friends. A lot of dive coming out from Broad and Friends. Yes, Kaisa can kind of W with AP, it's fine, but mostly dive. I now want to see Bulldog Academy recognize this and maybe go towards picks like a Poppy. Or maybe go towards a Braum or something that's more counter dive. Because at the moment, I've got big fear if you don't bring up something that stops this dive from happening to you, your Lucian, your Nidalee are going to be eviscerated. They don't care about Chenault here. Chenault does not dissuade this. You're going to need a lot more picks coming through here for Bulldog Academy to actually dissuade how aggressive Broad and Friends want to be. There's the Braum ban, so that's the first thing gone. The Quinn ban, by the way, if anyone doesn't know, that's also a pick of Mike in the mid lane. He's a Heimerdinger Quinn player, which excellent. People look at this and think we're joking, but he is a Heimerdinger Quinn player.
I remember watching this guy play Heimerdinger ages ago, and it was just it was like ban this guy's donger because it was just too strong. And you know what? I love seeing the respect bans coming out for it, as there's only gonna be one ban left for Bulldog Academy here, so I have to see what they opt in for. And you know what, Rel Nautilus, those bans make complete sense when you're seeing this Broad and Friends kind of comp coming together so far. It's a lot of send it forward, and those champions can just follow up nicely. Sure, there's a lot of other supports left for Broad and Friends to pick up here, but they will leave support for last pick. Oh, you okay there, buddy?
It's the Poppy angle of dreams, by the way. Like, if you aren't locking Poppy versus these 4 champions, I need to check PC. He not playing normally. Like, he this is not normal. Like, you've got to pick Poppy here. If you don't take Poppy, you're going to really, really struggle because they're just going to run you down. You don't have Braum available anymore. Magpie or Kakashi, I believe was his name before, can play it. They're locking in bait.
Dylan, are you in the room? What's going where? For the life of me, like Vayne doesn't have the worst Ambessa lane. It's certainly an inspired choice though, because if Ambessa does repeatedly reach you, it's pretty tough.
It's pretty hard. Shen could be support.
Yeah, okay.
What a bizarre. We're both all in silence.
I love this team.
Because it's probably Vayne Alistair, right? We assume it's Vayne Alistair, Lucian in the mid lane, and then it's like Shen top Nidalee jungle. But it could be Lucian in the bot lane, and it could be like Shen mids. Who knows? This team play every pick under the sun that's super weird as the Rakan comes through. It's just very, very difficult here to really put much praise on Bulldog's draft when it feels like they've decided, listen, we're going to go out in a blaze of glory, but it's only game 3.
Blaze of glory it may well be. Harry Curry stepping in for top this game, by the look of things, by what I'm being told.
Mm-hmm.
So we are expecting a little bit more madness, as a substitute comes in and you try and draft around it. I like the Rakan coming in. Alistair was one of the few traditional counters in like this pick's absolute dominant era, which is no longer, but still a very convincing, commit a headbutt, say goodbye to the quickening if it's not set up quite nicely, so burden of execution over. But with that in mind, look at what Bulldogs have to fight back with. I'm not sure you can hold off the dive with anything but Alistair, right, Rob? Is there some special sauce here?
I think what surprised me most with the Vayne pick is like the Vi clicks on you,
yeah.
And then in the duration you've gone up and you've gone back down again, you'll be dead. even
Yes.
through Shen ults. Like, you will be dead because your Vi will click you, you'll go up, and then Ambessa will click you, and you'll go up again, and then Rakan will click you, and you'll go up again. You're just going to be bouncing up and down. They're like 3 times minimum here. Another little knockback from Port with the Vi Q as well. I don't actually know how either ADC really plays this game without having a little bit more of a substantiated frontline, because let's not forget, if Shen is in front of you, it's hard for him to press the R key to ult you, and so you're only going to have Alistair in front of you being like, stay away, get away from me. And he's only got 1 headbutt. He doesn't have multiple ways of stopping the dive. It's going to be
So
very hard.
Nectarius is
Exciting.
going to spend a decent amount of this game in the air and falling in love with QQR, I imagine. What else is going to be Broad and Friends' condition here?
All right, you know what? What happens when we last saw a Vayne? It actually worked out. Why? Because the opposing team just, you know what? I'm a bruiser jungler. I'm just going to go full crit. So, you know what? If you're Pope, just don't buy any crit items. Don't go full crit shenanigans. Build these normally. And I think this is a complete normal game for Broad and Friends to take the win here. But I don't want to say that too soon yet, because, I mean, this is like a solo queue come from me from Bulldog Academy, right?
Okay.
If I'm on that team, I'm pressing the X key on the top of my client. I'm dodging, I'll take that -3 LP instead of playing through. But at the same time, when you have 5 people, these guys are all committed to the win. They all believe in each other. They believe in the power. These guys are committed to the show. So you know what? None of these guys are pressing the dodge button. They all go in. They think this game's already won. So that energy from Bulldog might just be what it takes to take down Broad and Friends here. I believe it.
All right, the
What's your
faith,
win
the
condition?
energy, the passion. I think we're both Broad and Friends favored on the desk. But my God, is this going to taste good? Rob, we'll be seeing you in a second. Hi, Thousand Eyes. How you doing?
I don't know what draft I just watched. I am in shock.
Did Dubby just say that the win condition at Bulldog Academy is the power of friendship?
That's the best that I think they got.
That's either a really big, they're friends, they can make it together, or that's one of the big, like the most low-key, heaviest flames you've ever said, which is your only win condition is what happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! And what made Yugi win Jules. It's, they put their hands together and they form the happy smiley face in like season 1. Like it's that's unbelievable from me. That's unbelievable analysis, Jeff.
I mean, so here's the thing, right? They did pick Shen. Shen's ultimate is Stand United. They're leaning into it, right? They know what the goal is here. They need to stand united to be able to win this game. They need to have Unbreakable Will, the Alistar ultimate. Like we're getting there.
They've actually picked their champions based on what they think wins games, which is they've chosen the properties that they believe makes a champion. That is Unbreakable Will and Staying United. And that has been their entire theme on the draft. Respect to that. However, okay, back to the actual game at hand. Massive worries. I imagine you could also probably say this. You were probably behind the scenes looking at it and thinking, what the hell am I about to cast? We've seen the draft, and we've already gone through the 5 stages of grief. I want to know what my co-casters, what stage you're at of grief right now, seeing what you've just seen on the screen.
Like regret? I think regret is probably
okay.
Yeah. Where it's because okay, it is gonna be interesting to watch, right? Because we don't get to see Nidalee very often, and Nidalee can do some funny stuff. I think Shen can provide a little bit here, but man, it's got execution level has to be peak here by Bulldog, and it's gonna be rough because Broad and Friends are not a bad team.
I was thinking, imagine the story if Bulldog pull off this win.
Broad and Friends are crushed.
Broad stonks in the mud.
Recover from this.
Yeah, broad stonks are in the mud. Like it's gonna look like they're gonna have to come up with something to solve this financial crash because it's not gonna be looking good.
Broad and Friends, and please more friends. We just need more people,
more of them. Bring them on board because clearly
we didn't have enough friendship. That's the problem.
That's what they've done. They've decided. Bulldog Academy have decided that if we're going to fight friendship with friendship, that's what their decision has been made here, and that's how they're going to win out. Because if you have more friends, it means you must be winning against a team that's full of friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whoever's their coach, I think, just deserves a complete pat on the back for what is a complete mastermind in terms of game strategy, something that we haven't really seen in any other league. I don't know why. I can't imagine why we haven't seen this in any other league. I mean, at the moment, I'm just trying to I wish I could give you analysis. I wish I could sit there and say to you, look at these win conditions. Look at how they want to play, because they've got a full clearing jungler in Italy, someone who can evade pretty aggressive early on. Then you look at the other sort of scenarios. You've got Lucian versus Arya mid, which is a decent matchup early on for the Lucian. Did get buffed recently as well on the E cooldown, which means you can trade a bit more aggressive early on. But then you're gonna have to look at it and go, well, we're playing Shen early top. And we've kind of given Ambessa early on can sort of get Shen can fight you early, but Ambessa can get pushed in the lane. But then you're not going to really be able to play around that side. You don't really want to play into a Shen lane as an Italy. So you're going to play bot lane, and your bot lane is Vayne, Alistair, who probably have one of the harder level ones to play. Versus at early levels, especially versus what I would say at least is the best player on Broad and Friends roster in Spark. And Zeta, who's on a high from the previous game. So you've really drafted yourself into a spot where Nidalee doesn't even really want to play the game. So I don't really know how they're going to go for this 1,000 Eyes, because it's going to be so difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be getting into game, though. We're going to see how it shakes out. I do want to say, I think the Shen, Nidalee, Lucian, that core was good. It's also mid lane Vayne. So I guess our bet on that one...
What?
Unless they're swapping roles, I don't. We're playing Vayne into Ahri.
Yeah. See, for me, Lucian, there's an evade going on, so I'll have to hold this point for a second, but they're just getting vision. Vayne into Kai'Sa was a pick that a long time ago when Kai'Sa was really meta, people liked Vayne into Kai'Sa because she could kind of take the 1v1 and end up rolling with it. And then Lucian into Ahri people like because you're playing an AD carry mid into a mage where you can kind of bully them early on. You can dodge the charm with your dash as Lucian, and go like that. But I've been completely bamboozled. I'm actually almost stunned to silence by seeing a Lucian bot lane and Vayne mid this game. You'll have to cover for a second.
We were already in shock, and now it's just getting worse here. I guess they want to have that bot lane to play around, right? Like that's kind of the theory around this. But I don't see where Vayne mid becomes good.
Yeah, I think it's going to get particularly hard because the Ahri can, maybe early on look for trades, but if you get charmed once, especially in this lane, you fall behind as Vayne, it's actually quite hard for you to actually play out when you're that far behind in gold. If you keep up your CS, there's a good chance you can try and do something, but you don't really have any ability to push the wave in, so you're going to be shoved in permanently this game. You can't really take trades into the Lucian either. Like, you've gone for lethal tempo on the Vayne, standard Vayne rune, but it's actually quite hard to get that stacked in a lane where the Ahri is going to constantly try and take short trades and move away from you, unlike, say, a Lucian would press the attack. Be interested to see how Faulty plays this out, because we know he likes his weird mid lane picks. He likes his Quinn, he likes his Heimerdinger, and he's added now Vayne to his repertoire. I wonder if he's got much practice on this in his matchup, because look at the damage trade so far. It's very hard for Vayne to do an extended trade. Even with that W, the trade is roughly in favor of the Vayne, of the Ahri, and the Ahri has sustained from a passive.
Yeah, that's kind of the scary thing. You're also looking like Lucian Dash feels pretty solid against the Ahri charm. The Vayne Q is a very short range. It's a little bit harder to dodge that charm there, so it's even scarier in that sense. So I'm really, really curious. And then you can add Vi being able to gank on top of that. I'm not sure. I'm at a loss for words, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing here Seltsam do what Seltsam does best, which is play this Nidalee and look for early invades onto the Vi. But the Nidalee here is just going to get forced out a little bit if the bot comes up. Never mind, Porp's in a lot of danger here.
Yeah, waiting for that Q to come through, throws it, does not hit. Pop dodges the correct way, but does need to back here. The threat of a dive is very real. Seltsam flashes, gets the kill, and now they're going to go for the full dive. Spark goes down next, and it's just Zeta alive, goes for the dive, and that's feat of warfare already done. Oh my god, Seltsam almost survived that, but you still take that.
It's happening! They're going to lose the main mid lane. No, it's insane. What a play by Seltsam, dodging out on the Q of the Vi. There was no ability for the Vi to look for a Q flash there because the angle that Seltsam flashed in, as well as Faulty, just takes an immense amount of damage in mid. And it just ends up being Seltsam ends up with 2 kills. First base, needlessly large rod, slamming it on the table. That is the Seltsam special. Looking towards what I assume to be possibly that Lich Bane, as he's just sprinting straight top here, looking for a play top.
Yeah. taunt is gonna hit there. Harry Carey does get it, but the minions get in the way of the spear. Akin will be able to get out of that one, but it is a flash burned.
Yeah, Flash going down in top. Seltsam, is this going to be a Seltsam running the map at the moment? Because Porp is already back bot lane. He's going to lose his top camps. They're looking for a dive on this Lucian, got no support. So got to be a bit careful here, Nectarios in the bot lane, because 3 members are available, but his support's almost there.
Look at him walk down here. And Seltsam's still being a problem here. This is giving a lot of time to shove these minions in, which are going to be lost if we don't see Akers use that TP. Would expect that to happen. Yeah, will be used now. But it's just control here from the Nidalee. Early needlessly large rod. That is a lot of damage that this Nidalee can pump out. And you have to be a little worried about it.
And got to be a bit careful giving the kill over early to QQR. Pretty phenomenal mid laner on his day, but ends up just walking away. I thought might try and like hands check an Ari there for a second, doesn't go for it. Porp is at least trying to do something because this Vi's a bit homeless in terms of camps at the moment. Foldy's got to be careful. Doesn't
There's
get jumped
the
on.
Ghost used. Stays alive. Important there to get that one summoner spell. No teleport here for Faulty, so doesn't have the ability to reset. Needs to use those summoner spells early to keep that HP up. Level 6 hit. Charm does not land from QQR, and Faulty gets to walk up for a little bit of damage.
This is so far been looking great. Look at Seltsam. He's right in Porp's face.
Q lands onto the Vi. Is he going to go in? Seltsam goes in. Vi gets the shield to survive for just a little bit longer. Doesn't have the cooldowns for the fight. And Seltsam gets traded. It is 1-for-1. Both junglers gone. Vaulty can't get the final shots onto QQR. And it's just both junglers falling.
Seltsam is trying to put Porp in the dirt here. Seltsam is trying to show why he was dropped by Rise. Oh. Okay.
Can they get... Okay, yeah. No, they're...
He's got to be a bit careful. He's going to be chunked a little bit. He's walking back. This is risky. He needs support.
Surely we don't walk back there.
But I was going to say, Seltsam was dropped by Rise last split, and he did look pretty good in the games that he played for Rise. He was one of these kind of junglers bring out Nidalee Graves and try and like 1v1 the jungler in the enemy jungle with prio from lanes. And he's kind of showing that again here, where he's just taking everything away from Porp. Porp is 30 CS without many camps up in the jungle. Only got those 2 camps on top side. He does have a Grompashi as well. But this Nidalee is kind of running laps around Broad and Friends. Yes, does fall in that fight. But if he's able to keep Porp behind and maybe get a few more kills or a bit of a CS lead, there's a good chance of a bit of a Nidalee moment where he is going to be able to do a canyon and play this Nidalee to perfection. He's got the support. We were questioning it, right? We were questioning whether he gets support name, but it looked like their bot lane managed to get pushed to help Nidalee earlier, and Shen has been helping Nidalee on top side. So overall, impressive game for Bulldogs to be able to play this out in a way where they aren't falling behind 2k gold in the first 10 minutes.
I will say...
They're ahead.
Yeah, no, I will say here, the fact that they swapped the Lucian and Vayne actually looks really good because they've had that side lane pressure that they would not have had if it was that Vayne on the bot side. So honestly, the power of friendship might be the play. I hate to say it. It might just be Saturday morning cartoon, just power of friendship that's gonna win this game for them.
It's a bit worrying, though, that the CS tiff in mid already, right? Because QQR is quietly just getting super far ahead. He is going that rod build as well, and once you get that rod and you start getting that Leandries, it's actually very hard for you to die. Yes, there's a Vayne, but you still have a lot of that HP that means you're tanky versus the Nidalee versus the Lucian. So, overall, even though this has been a pretty impressive early game, in my opinion, from the jungler of Bulldog Academy, it hasn't been... They're not out the woods yet because they're playing a comp that as teams start to group up, imagine 5v5ing with this team comp. It's going to be very, very difficult.
I'd rather not.
You need to keep the chaos up. Keep that chaos rolling. Keep it going. And I want to see if they can do that in the next sort of 5-10 minutes, because this is the period of time where you can create that chaos that gets you those huge gold leads, gets you a couple of 1 fights, and can get you that game win. Because let's be honest, if this goes past 25 minutes, you're going to have to give it to Broad and Friends' comp. Just comp versus comp.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen too much action since that jungle fight. Now we might see some. Seltsam gets pushed away from the dragon as Broad and Friends look to take it for themselves. Gonna keep that dragon aggroed. Spear does hit, but Seltzum's a little bit too far forward. Gets hit by the Ariel, still staying alive, flashes away, ignites ticking, can't get the kill. And there's Zeta getting so low. Spark falls, and somehow Bulldog Academy get another one fight.
Brod and friends look like they're a little bit confused. They look dazed like we were on the desk. Yeah, they jump in there. They manage to almost get the kill. It ends up being that the Nidalee survives with a sliver HP, and they manage to get the kill onto the Brod and friends AD carry in return and get the dragon. I like the idea from Brod and friends for going there, because I don't think you should sit there and be too worried about the gold lead with the kind of champs that you've got. You're going to be able to choose the target and generally should be able to blow them up. But I think that they just weren't able to execute that in the way that they wanted. They didn't get that target down quick enough. The heal from Nidalee as well does an awful lot to keep herself alive. The Shen ult as well, keeping that Nidalee alive too. They're trying to get that gold through. They're trying to choose that target. And this is the period of time when Shen is the strongest, right? Shen ult later, quite hard because Shen wants to be with the team, and then casting in the middle of a team fight's really bad. But at these kind of stages, when you're still in the lane, and it's an Ambessa who, let's be honest, Ambessa's not the scariest one to give an extra wave of CS to compared to maybe some other top laners like a Kayle or whatever, Akaz is just trying to run down Harry carry and top lane, but shouldn't get anything from it. But early on, Shen getting this crucial ult, a couple crucial Shen ults could get you this game leaders. Paul, gotta be careful. He's super
gets hit.
Squishy.
Damage is really scary here. Seltzum gets another kill on the Vi. 0-3 on this Vi now. Not really a factor, just kind of an ult bot at the moment.
And I think he'll be the ult bot for the rest of the game, Thousand Eyes. This has been a phenomenal performance from Seltzum early on. Already got that Lich Bane online. Look how much damage as Yukio gets a nice little chunk onto Faulty again. Just manages to, he's gone for those Berserker's Greaves, just assuming he's going to then go towards what would be like, it looks like is that a Kraken Slayer going to be built for the Vayne? But Faulty's not in too much threat at the moment. But props to the jungler of Bulldog Academy this game. Seltzum has shown up in a big way. I'm just a bit worried that they can keep this going. I need to see them go for another play, keep Porp out the game. He might be an ult bot, but if he's already dead before a fight starts, he can't do anything.
Big ups to Kashi as well, who's been just moving around with this Nidalee, opening up opportunities that Nidalee can't do for herself. So Alistar has been very scary in this game, and it has been the damage and CC needed to confirm those kills.
It's also, if you're playing, we were saying how is Alistar going to ward off the dive? If you're isolating it into little tiny skirmishes, Alistar has the perfect chance of getting a target. As they've got to be careful here, Brod and friends. There's an Alistar available. They can easily just die.
Teleport Spark is already gone. They're going to back away before the TP even finishes. QQR is here. Pop still around as well. But they don't have the ability to take this fight. The HP bars are a little bit sketchy, and the Vayne was going to walk down as well. Bulldog get out, and they get their kill.
And the other thing is that when you then go for the kind of follow-up fight that the Brod was kind of looking for, Vi is so squishy that if they don't full send onto the Nidalee, who has a Shen ult available for her, then she is not going to die. She's going to one-shot your Vi, and then they're going to keep making these sort of messy skirmishes. As this is another mistake coming from Brod and friends. You do not have control of this game at this point in time. You need to respect the strength of Seltzum and not look to try and take these grubs in front of their face.
Oh, the Vi is in trouble.
He's flashed into the pit.
Flashed into the pit, and that's not where you wanted to go. Ult to stop the condemn. Faulty's in trouble. Will go down. The numbers advantage may be good here. Taunt onto Spark can't be enough, and Seltzum does get over the wall, but doesn't survive it. Brod and friends find their in.
And it looks really bad initially, Pork getting caught out having to flash into the pit, but Bulldog just didn't really respect the numbers advantage BNF had there. There was no Nectarios, there was none of the solution wasn't there, and that's a huge source of your damage in these early on fights. And at this point, that is exactly what BNF need to somehow get back into this game, because they need a few more mistakes. It's hard to make mistakes when you're playing a comp like Bulldogs because of the fact it's so solo queue in nature. So focused on making games scrappy, so focused on getting a pick and then trying to find another one and another one, that if you make a mistake of this, it could put you super far behind. Not behind in gold, but rather behind comp versus comp. I'm a bit worried now for Bulldog that they managed to mess that up, because it looks great.
Gone.
Pork was flashed into the pit. Pork should be dead, but he has numbers. He has his friends of the Brod and friends name. The power of friendship ends up saving him for Bulldog, and it ends up being that the momentum is now in Brod and friends' favor if they want to try and play for this dragon.
It's also the weakness of that Vayne, right? Wanted to go up, get damage onto Pulp, but just too short range, doesn't have the ability to burst down that Vi just yet. And that CS disadvantage may be coming into play as well.
Absolutely, and this here it then goes to be that if you are bottom friends, all you need to do, we said this in sort of draft, is you've got Ambessa, you've got Vi, you've got Ari, very good at single target burst, choose one target, kill it. Even against a Shen ult, there is a Zhonya's coming through, or rather a Seeker's available, for at least it's going to be harder to do that, but they're just going to have to play very simply, dive, choose one target and kill it, and it's going to be very hard for Bulldog to actually dissuade that, as Kakachi's caught out, having to burn the Unbreakable Will already.
Kachi using that ult already. Very unfortunate before the fight even starts, and the tower in the top side goes down as well. This is a really awkward place for Bulldog to be. Gonna go into the pit. They're forcing this. Teleport's coming in now. Faulty's not in this fight. He's cut off from it. They're just gonna go for it, but I don't think it's a fight they want. Kachi low. There's the kill on to Spark, but the damage is too much. Some heals will go down to the Ambessa, and the health bars blinking for Bulldog. They somehow get a 2-for-1, but the fight might not be over.
I mean, I wouldn't put it just down yet. They're coming back in here, bottom friends.
Yeah, Harry Carey does dash away, flashes over the wall, and the disengage may be fully complete. Bulldog, 2-for-1 somehow.
So, Brod chucked Spark off the friendship bus, and he was left alone. And unfortunately, he did end up falling at the beginning of that fight. This is not what you want to see. If you think about how that fight kind of happened, it was that the TP comes in, Bulldog all move onto the TP, Brod try and move forward. They end up playing back over the wall onto their side of the map, but Spark was left alone, didn't manage to get the ult off. I didn't see if he was chain CC'd because I was too busy watching how the fight was going on the other side, but ends up being that Spark falls there. And that's definitely not what you want to see when you've got an AD carry who's got 4 of your kills. He's generally should be your strongest member in these fights. That is not a good start. However, Broad and Friends looked like they could have turned it around. Nothing else came from it. Ends up being a 2-for-1, which now it's we go again, but this time without the ultimates available for Broad and Friends.
The Diddley doesn't care about that. Could just keep putting down these spears, be a threat, has to watch for the charm, but there's not enough numbers here, and they will give that dragon away, which is another objective. Next objective will give the feats. They're still trying to look for this fight, Bulldog, and I don't think they're going to get it. Shen ult used as well, so a big cooldown lost for nothing.
Very aggressive Shen ult there on a play that's honestly about a 20-30%er is not what you want to see, especially because now, without this Shen ult, yes, you have teleport available. Shen is going to have to walk back up to top, and he doesn't really have an out if he wants to try and make a play again. If he wants to TP, Akaz can just stay up there. Akaz doesn't have a teleport, so functionally right now, with Akaz joining, it's going to be, it doesn't really matter, that TP advantage, basically. And so I'm a bit worried about what Bulldog are now going to do about this Herald being taken, because Broad and Friends, after a really disastrous early game, have stabilized. They pick up that Mounted Dragon, pretty valuable early on, at least to get a bit extra resistances. They're getting the Herald, and Shen's walking in here, but the rest of the members of Bulldog are not available. Faulty is nowhere to be seen.
Kachi is way too far forward. Unbreakable Will used immediately again. Now, here comes Seltsum, does hit the spear, jumps forward, but now is hit by the charm. Zeta doesn't have a lot of tank stats, will fall now as the damage is being put all over. Pop, low, falls. The Lucian is popping off, and there is still a fight to be won by Bulldog. How do they keep doing it?
These are the most chaotic, insane synonyms game of all time. We see there, it looks really good for Brods because they've burnt the Unbreakable Will. Alistair looks chunked to half HP. They just play around their first target sort of damage and they should be fine. But Bulldog split up. Seltsum lives somehow. I have no idea how he manages to survive that fight. And Bulldog come away with the kills. This looked like it was swinging back in Brod's favor. You guys gotta be careful. Hold on.
QQR, yeah, this is exactly what this comp wants to do. They are gonna get the stun and the kill. Seltsum again. The picks are scary there.
This Nidalee hasn't backed yet as well. This Nidalee should be sat on a decent chunk of gold. Yeah, 1900 gold. Can finish that Zhonya's, which I suspect they will want to do. It's only going to get a bit stronger at going for picks on this side. And Broad and Friends are not respecting it. They are simply not respecting. Like QQR walking up there, you cannot do that if they're not members being shown on the map, especially against a team like Bulldog and the comp that they're showing. Akaz, meanwhile, by the way, has had the most quiet game on top lane you could possibly expect because he's had to basically do nothing. They're going to look for a play here onto the Shen.
They're going to try and dive a Shen? Yeah, not going to happen. And the Alistar there to back him up. just a little bit of lost time there for Broad and friends.
It's just very surprising because for such an experienced, or not just org, but roster of players, they seem to be making some very rookie mistakes in this game, not respecting side lanes being covered, not respecting the ability for this team to choose one target and blow up as well. Nidalee is so fed that she can also just choose to jump in and kill someone. And they're just making mistakes of leaving their ADC alone, not respecting flash timers, things like this. It's very, very surprising to see in a game. And are they a little bit out of sorts here, Thousand Eyes? Are they a little bit shocked by what was picked? Are they a little bit overconfident because they see their comp versus the enemy comp and think it should be an easy game? Wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. They need to get mentally back in this game because they were back on that Leave the Grubs play, and then it's all gone again off of a couple plays from Seltsum again.
Yeah. Do want to call out, we did get the feats going in favor of Broad and Friends. They do have the bonus boots for themselves. Now we're seeing Otacon going to be spawning here in the bot side. Teleport being used by Ackers. They're looking for a play here. Kachi might be in trouble. Does have a flash. Unbreakable Will used already. Might need to flash away. Still walking forward here. Does get charmed and things don't look good. Kachi goes down. That's a shutdown going over to the Kaisa.
It wasn't that much invested either. Only that public execution from Ambessa going a bit wide onto the backline. Not too much used, so they can re-engage as if they want to, Modern Friends.
Nectarios too far forward. Don't know what's happening there. And now that might mean Seltsum's in trouble. The Shen ult used as well. Things falling apart now. Zonia's from Seltsum gonna survive just a little bit longer, and that does buy them the time to look for this fight. Again, taunt on to Zeta, who flash auto from Harry Carey confirms that kill. And Seltsum now getting help from the Vayne as well. Bulldog, scrap it out.
And again, they managed to come up with a couple kills. It looks really good for Broad and Friends. Remember, they only used Ambessa ultimate, nothing else. So they look like they could go for a fight there, go for a re-engage. They're choosing a target with the Zhonya's, though, so that Vial doesn't end up mattering. QQR was chunked massively, rather, on the top side of the fight by Seltsum, so had to be back away there. Wasn't a chance to really get that sort of Viari combination that you want to see. And Bulldogs, there's too many Bs in this game. Bulldogs are back at it again. Kachi, though, he's struggling here.
In trouble. Smite does hit. Kachi gonna get a little bit of help to try and get out. Will survive, and the dragon is picked up by Bulldog as well. Scary, but they make it work.
Very, very scary. They do manage to pick up the dragons, so they are, 2 dragons to 1. No real threat of a soul point, no real threat of that soul going over to anyone just yet as a win condition. However, I think Bulldogs are pretty happy to sit there and have this kind of chaotic game, right, where, okay, the dragons aren't available, we're just going to keep scrapping with you in the jungle. Broad and Friends are still playing into this as well. Look, they're going into the enemy jungle where they have the support, they have the members, but they aren't yet aware of who they're actually going to be able to kill. The Vayne is quite far behind. Maybe doesn't do the damage, but this Lucian is so strong. This Nidalee is so strong. And if they don't choose their correct targets here, Broad and Friends, one of these champions could easily run over a teamfight. They're just calling for the Atacon. With the Herald, this looks like it could just go over. Are Bulldogs going to contest, or are just going to let Shen keep pushing top?
They do seem to be aware that it is going down, and they're moving towards it. Still 5k HP, 3k, almost assuredly going down, and it will to Broad and Friends. Engage from Kachi, Unbreakable Will used. Now in comes Faulty with the Vayne ult ready to go, but he's way out of position. Gonna get blown up immediately, and Kachi goes down as well. The blood petals are all Bulldog Academy will be able to get for themselves.
And this is the fear of that Vayne pick we were saying. There's a lot of chance here to target. Okay, the fight isn't over yet. Never mind.
Oh, the spear does hit onto Pulp. Seltsum's looking for it. Might be a little bit too far forward. And Ackers is behind. Bulldog have put themselves in a pinch, and they might not have a way out. Zonia's used early. Damage down. Another 2 kills, and it's a delayed ace for Broad and Friends.
I was going to say, it looks a bit like the Bulldog Academy, they got a bit too hyphy. They got a bit, they were too much in their own heads. They were thinking, we can easily wipe this fight off for the Atacard. And we were saying in draft, this Vayne is going to struggle because it's going to be Vi hitting you. Then there's going to be an Ari charm. Then there's going to be, Kaisa able to come in. Ackers wasn't even in that fight for the public execution to go on her as well. So as soon as she shows, she's going to be one-shot. And if she's shown in a position basically isolated from a team, there was an Alistair nearby, but it doesn't really count. He was nowhere really near. You're going to be instantly killed. You are not a tanky Vayne at this point. Look at the items on this Vayne. Kraken Slayer, boots, and
you got pickaxe for fun.
Yeah, you don't have the damage. You don't have the damage. You don't really have the tankiness that you get on those veins, the Wits Ends, the Jack shows later in the build. So you're still very squishy. You let yourself get caught out, and then to look for a fight, a sort of re-engaged fight here by Bulldog Academy is suicidal, to say it. Honestly, yeah. It's insane that you were in a position of strength. You could have just early on in this game, and you made a few mistakes on a comp you can't make those mistakes on. Seltzum, who had a phenomenal game, look at his scoreline, 4-5-8. That isn't really what you expected when this game started so well for him. 5 deaths is quite a lot, and it's not going to get any easier anytime soon with this dive coming out of Broad Friends.
Yeah, it's tough here. We may be hitting the point where the timers are too scary. Good pick up on the Raptors. Obviously very comfortable. But now you're looking at the point where the items are coming through. We have 2 items on almost everybody. That really does put things better off for Broad and Friends, because that Kai'Sa's hitting the breakpoints. The Vi is able to survive and shred this armor. The Ahri is tanky enough to get into the fray here. Broad and Friends seem like they're in a solid position right now.
Really, really solid. It's going to be very hard here for Bulldog Academy to get any sort of inroads unless they get that first pick or BNF make a mistake. They're just going to back off for a second, kind of seed that ground. A lot of vision available for the approach to Baron, so Broad and Friends could always choose their fight very carefully, but very easily. And if you're Bulldog here, you've got to keep trying to make chaos. You've got to keep trying to find this pick, find one member isolated. Maybe it's the Ahri that doesn't check the vision, sneak around some of these wards, etc., etc. And that's getting increasingly harder, right? I said 25 minutes. This game needs to be over for 25 minutes for Bulldog Academy with the lead they had. It's not. And now the game state is a disaster for them.
Exactly, right. We said, gotta end it soon. Now they're at the point where not only are they not in the gold lead, but their champions just don't do well in what is likely going to be a lot of team fights. The Vayne can maybe be a problem eventually, but we're looking way down the line. Now, Seltzum's in trouble, jumps forward, gets the vial, Zhonya's is it, and now this could be a fight that Bulldog could take. The Unbreakable Will helps. They're going to get under tower, the dive, going to try to make that work. Will get Kachi. Now Bulldog Academy have shown up, but Broad and Friends just want the tower for now.
And even if you are tanking on this Alistar, you're basically solo frontlining until that Shen joins, right? And that's just, you just don't have that much tankiness when there are 5 members hitting you, as now they assume control over the bot side jungle here, Broad and Friends, looking for this dragon. Honestly, you've likely got to give this unless you get a steal off, because Harry Carey, he's walking in, but there's still members here for Broad and Friends. He's going to take a lot of damage before this dragon fight even starts. It's going to be gone.
Yeah, the dragon is already gone, and now they're just going to flash over the wall onto Bulldog. Culling used. Akers is way into the fight, trying to get these kills, but the other side of the fight's also breaking out into chaos, and none of it is good for Bulldogs as they are falling apart.
They split 2 members on the top side of the fight, 2 members on the bot side. Akers manages to chase out that Nidalee and the Shen from that top side of the fight, and it just leaves their 2 other members of Bulldog isolated against the other 4 members of Broad and Friends. That's a bit of a disaster, because let's be honest, we could see it. That dragon was gone. Yep. You can't walk in there at that point in time. You're down a member. Alistar is honestly one of your most crucial pieces here. He's your only real initial frontline. He's also a lot of your peel and your engage. So you kind of need him around, and he's just not there. And you end up going into a 4v5. Yes, the dragon's been taken. Yes, it might have done a bit of damage to them, but it's not going to be enough. As this Baron, it's going to go to the way of Broad and Friends. It was looking scary early on. They've kind of resumed control, but can't imagine going back looking at this game that Broad and Friends are going to be too happy. They're going to be sweating a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we can kind of point to when this game started to fall apart was when we started seeing Kachi having to use those Unbreakable Wills just to survive and not use them for engage. As soon as that started happening, Bulldogs didn't have the ability to play as aggressive as they wanted to, and that momentum really shifted.
It's very hard, right? Because again, Alistar is so much of
everything
for your comp. He is the alpha and the omega for you, basically. Yes, the Nidalee's strong. Yes, there's damage from the Lucian and the Vayne, but your Alistar needs to be there for every fight and needs to be making the plays. And as it gets longer and longer in this game, it's going to get harder and harder. And now they've got to go. They've got to pick.
Yeah, they've jumped in to get away, and now the teleport's coming as well. Bulldogs force a little bit out from Broad and Friends, but they don't get any financial gain from it.
And the other problem is the damage behind them is not great. Oh, Akers is caught, though.
Akers is way too far forward. Public execution onto the Lucian, but is down already, but is the damage already been done? Harry Carey goes down, culling across a bunch, but it's not doing any damage. The gold is too much in Broad and Friends' favor, and their team fight is too good. Faulty, the last one alive, and it's an ace for Broad and Friends.
And a quadra kill for Spark, who early on was ditched by his buddies in that fight that we were so worried was maybe the beginning of Bulldog making something happen. Now he comes back with that quadra kill, and a very shaky early game. Very, very shaky for the side of Broad and Friends, but they managed to bring it back, and they now go to 1-1. 2-1.
2-1, yeah. But, I mean, a very scary start. I don't think you can say here that Broad and Friends have fixed the worries that have existed here, right? Like, that early game was very, very sketchy. Cleaned it up by the end, but you ideally don't want to have to clean up anything.
Yeah, it was... We were genuinely... I mean, it sounds crazy. There was a comp thing here where I think that the comp of Bulldog is very solo queue, very hard to pull off. But I had a lot of worries at about 10 minutes into this game because Porp looked really out of sorts on the Vi. It's not that he can't play it, but rather in terms of the state of the game, he was like 0-3. Seltzen was living in his jungle rent-free. But mistakes were made by Bulldog Academy multiple times. On a comp, you can't make those mistakes. Really, really unfortunate loss for Bulldog, really, because this is like the best sign of life, at least I'm aware of, that I've seen out of their games. This looks like the biggest chance of them maybe pulling off a victory and upset. Doesn't come to pass.
I mean, at the very least, you can say, hey, we've got something, right? We did do something right, and we point to positives for Bulldog Academy. They're getting something going for themselves. It's not just rolling over and dying every time. It's just about fixing those mistakes. Did see the power of friendship beat out the power of friendship with Broad and Friends taking the victory. Somebody was going to win. But congratulations to Broad and Friends, and I think we're going to send it to a quick break before the analyst desk breaks down. Oh, we're sending it right to the analyst desk, rather.
And welcome back. My gosh, a victory for Broad and Friends. But at what cost? I don't think any of us saw that coming. A first 10 minutes dominated by Bulldogs Academy. In and out of the enemy jungle. A 40 CS lead in the jungle. Both top laners picking up kills and assists everywhere else but their own lane. That's not very Akers style. You know, we normally smash lane opponent before we do anything else. Rob, you've survived it. Dobby, we had a good time watching that, I think.
I think we had a great time watching that. I mean, I was just cheering on Bulldog Academy from the green room, just being like, I was hyped. I mean, seeing the start of the game, I had hope. Like, I was really expecting them to have some kind of opportunity to get into this game. I think we even have some replays available just to show you.
Let's talk about that time where you thought they were coming in, W. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, right here, we'll see this fight where they sent everything. You think right here, Zeltsam on this Nidalee has overstepped. You can see it right now. Pulls the trigger. Everyone's jumping. But some nice peel from the rest of the team do keep them alive. They're able to flash out here. They turn the fight back, getting a kill onto Spark, I believe, and converting the dragon. And this right here, I was like, surely, this is going to keep them the win right now.
We joked in draft. It's like, they're going to spend their time airborne and falling in love with QQR. And it happened there, and they lived. It was just enough. Just enough. And unfortunately, the magic couldn't last forever. Vayne's timely arrival to fights was not quite replicated, Rob. We do have a further replay, which I've lost the timestamp for. And it's about 2300 over Otacon. Things started to fall apart here. All right, we're doing that thing where we can't hear Rob again.
They can't hear me. That's fine. I'll keep talking, and everyone.
We know that Rob's points are always absolutely fine.
Rob's points are always on board. We told him what to say. So we while we're getting the replay ready, we're also going to make it so me and Dobby can hear him.
But basically, I think that this Atacard fight in general, Vayne makes the biggest criminal mistake of all time. He ends up walking in, and just ends up causing a fight that realistically they could have looked for something, but immediately we said about this in draft, the instant turn here that's available for Bron and Friends is going to be so good. Choosing that first target. That first target was Vayne, dies. And this fight was split. And honestly, Bulldog, they made a lot of mistakes in this game where they were playing very, very split. You know, 2 members here, 2 members there. And all Bron had to do was choose. And they end up winning it. And honestly, it looked like it could have been very good for Bulldog early on. And I was pretty hyped because that first few kills, and there's a few fights where like Spark is left alone multiple times by his friends, literally the friends. And it looked like maybe there's a chance for there to be kills on Vayne, kills on Lucian, get something going. Didn't happen in the end. And it was a lot of execution mistakes later, even though I think it was very hard to execute in the first place. So I don't hate what Bulldog did, but I think they didn't help themselves in some of those fights.
I think you're definitely right. The sort of the excitement wore off, the advantage burned away, and you definitely can't play that comp if the main AD carry that's meant to cause havoc later on is the unfortunate victim of a no HP left incident. Gentlemen, what a day! What a day of Four Nations. I think we've had a bit of a banger of a show. I've enjoyed watching. I sat there with my chicken strips earlier. I was like, I get to be on this later.
Chicken strips.
It's gonna be. I don't know why we don't have them very often, and I was just like, chicken strips for dinner. Anyway,
Treat yourself to some Four Nations and chicken strips on a Monday night. I like it.
I hope your Easter Monday has been as delicious as mine was. You know, we've had an absolute stonker. Venom Crest streak unbound. Paragon getting the first win on the... Wait, no, can I read? 21-24. That's not what that is.
Yeah.
Goodchi, unfortunately falling, but Paragon getting their first win on the board. Belfast and Rise going at it. Rise Gaming looking pretty good. And even Bulldogs Academy giving us a first 10-minute fiesta here on the night. What an absolute show. Gentlemen, any rounding thoughts before we close out?
Power of friendship wasn't enough. That's all I have to say.
It's not Heart of the Underdog tonight, unfortunately.
It's not about the friends we made along the way. It's about Brod is inevitable, clearly, and friendship. They're the ones with the true power of friendship on their side. It's very, very sad. Also, Venom Crest losing. I think that's something that we really have undersold on this. Is that as W gives it a thumbs up. It's been months, and I think losing to against Inquick with a sub in top lane as well, I think it might have shocked a lot of people because Inquick in their previous game, at least the game that was on stream against 200 Bandits, that game was a mess. There was a lot of fights. It went to like 45 minutes, lots of deaths back and forth. For them to kind of close it out quickly through what Temporal mentioned in the tier list pre-show about Dragdar and Kittenly really kind of stomping a lane, I think is a good sign for the league in total, because it shows that maybe Venom Crest aren't as infallible as we expected them to be.
I'm just struggling. I do have the scoreboard somewhere that I can show you all. It's gone. I've lost it in the sea of Discord channels. And talking of getting lost in the sea, we will see you for our next iteration of Four Nations. Week 2, Day 2 promises to prolong and extend what has been fantastic spring so far. It's been a pleasure broadcasting for you all this evening. We'll see you Thursday and then hopefully Saturday afterwards. See you later. Good night.
Bye.